welcome to my live stream. My Lego man's fallen over. Stand up, you lazy little sod. There we go. I need to get up my others, actually. I've got a red one and a pink one upstairs. And they might look good standing next to each other. But I'm not Lego obsessed. Hello, welcome to my live stream. Wasn't really in the mood to do any writing yesterday. And I'm still not completely caught up on my sleep. So I might have another doze later. But I thought I'd try and get something done this morning. So if I get 3 chapters done in this session, and annoyingly these are 3 of my longer chapters, but then things are ramping up a little bit. If I get 3 of these chapters done, 3 chapters done today, that'll take me to the end of chapter 25, which will leave me 8 chapters to do in the next 3 days. And if I can do another 2 today, I'm back on the original schedule I was before I had the extra day off, which was yesterday. I kind of knew I wouldn't do anything the day before because I was busy. I was at Chester Zoo looking at interesting things. Like bats and cassowary. I did like the cassowary. I just wanted to give it a big hug. Oh, yes. Anyway. Let's send a test text message. Ooh. That's not good. That normally works. Wonder why that's not working. Oh. That normally, because it's come from my chat room, it hasn't come up on my screen. That's unusual. Oh, well, I'll just have to make sure if anybody sends me any messages, I read them out. Because normally they appear there. And that's why I normally do a test at this point. Let's just send another one just to be on the safe side. But I don't think it seems to be working today. Let's just check that view. No, not on that view. Oh, no, that's not it. Not on that view either. Oh, well. So yes, we'll have to make sure I do check my phone, otherwise any messages that come through, well, I'll have to read them out. Normally they come up on the screen, so I can just respond to them. Right, let's go to The Artist, Chapter 23, The Sutherland Institute. And again, why is it doing that? My instinct is that this chapter is basically there, but we shall soon see. Right then, chapter 23, The Sutherland Institute. That's incredible. Saywood smiled. Isabel was sitting in front of her in the first floor drawing room, an undamaged pot of tea on the table in front of her. I didn't even realise I was doing it. Isabel raised a cup to her lips and sipped at the tea. As far as I know, nobody's ever managed to successfully learn to shut off their mind that quickly. And from what you tell me, you managed to keep your defences raised for almost 2 hours. I was thinking about other things, admitted Saywood. An image of Rebecca was thrust into Isabel's mind, and she winced. "I can tell you're not doing it now," she said testily. "Sorry," said Saywood. "It's only been 3 days. Losing her still hurts." Isabel put down the cup. "I feel that," she said dryly. Can you build your wall for me now?" "Yes," said Saywood. "I've been practicing." Isabel held out her hand and Saywood grasped it firmly. They both closed their eyes and found themselves in the green field again. Isabel looked to the horizon and almost gasped at the rapidity with which the bricks were appearing overhead. Row upon row snapped into existence until the whole sky, horizon to horizon, was filled. Isabel opened her eyes. That Isabel opened her eyes just doesn't seem to fulfill any function in that sentence, so let's just lose it. It's taken less than a minute. "Have you tried adding secondary and tertiary layers?" asked Isabel. Saywood opened her eyes and shook her head. "Not yet," said Saywood. She said. "I want to learn to build this one quickly. How long does it last?" "Not long," admitted Saywood. "When I think about it too much, it comes down." She blinked and the wall collapsed onto the grass. "So how did you keep it up for 2 hours?" Saywood shook her head. "I think it's because I was thinking about Rebecca. I didn't even realise the wall was still there until she got into the car." That's what the layers will help you with, said Isabel. The more you add, the more stable the wall is. If you wanted, you could add so many it would stay there forever, or at least until you choose to tear it down. Saywood nodded. That's what I want. Try again. Each layer must be composed of a different material. You can alternate between two materials, or you can use a different material for each. Which is better? Each different material uses a different technique to dismantle, so the more you use, the stronger the wall is. Alternating between two materials means it takes you less time to pull it down when you choose to. Saywood gave her a stony expression. I never want to pull it down. Isabel lifted the teacup and took another sip. I do understand. I would ask you not to build anything too robust for the time being, though. Saywood had not yet touched her tea. She lifted the cup to her lips and took a sip. Why not? Isabel narrowed her eyes. Because you are strong, Saywood. Stronger than me. Stronger than almost anyone that I have ever met. You could be one of the most impressive of us. I hate to see potential wasted. And we are going to need you. Soon. Why? Because we've found him again. I think I'm going to change the word found to located. Because we've located him again. That was the other reason I came here today. The Institute is meeting tomorrow to inform our members of what we plan to do. Saywood shook her head. I hate all of this, but I need to know Rebecca's safe. As soon as it's all over, I will be building a wall so thick and strong that nobody will ever be able to break in. That may work. That may not work. Now you know you have these abilities, you will want to use them. It's like an addiction. If you build a wall, you will end up tearing it down yourself just to have that feeling again. That's why it's so dangerous. It's why we don't allow people to keep it unless they have the purest of intentions. I don't have pure intentions. I want Sosie dead for what he did to Molly and Sir Teddy, and for what he could have done to Bex. Isabel looked uncomfortable. There is a difference between wanting to make your friends safe and having dishonourable intentions, Saywood. I want Max Sosie to die as well. Not because I'm cruel, but because he is. I don't want him to hurt anyone ever again. Several Institute members have disappeared over the last 100 years. We now believe they got too close to him and he disposed of them. Isabel opened a handbag, took out a white envelope. This is your invitation to a briefing tomorrow in London. Can you be there? Saywood nodded. I can get a train. Geraldine's also going. You can travel down with her. I have one more request of you. Some of the pictures that we recovered from Elvington Manor contain people that we believe to be Institute members that Sosie trapped. I need to know how to free them. I have tried, but it doesn't work. Can you let me look at what you did again? Saywood breathed in and out carefully. I suppose. She lifted a hand, and Isabel held up both of hers. What do I have to do? Do you need me to think about what happened? The opposite, in fact. Think about something else entirely. If you think about those moments, the events are open to your interpretation, which may include supposition and not fact. Please actively think about something else. Saywood nodded and closed her eyes. She thought about Rebecca and their last conversation on the wall. Don't fight me. Saywood opened her eyes and saw that Isabel was sweating. I wasn't. I was thinking about what I need to do to build the wall, not trying to build it. Isabel winced and shook her head. You're so strong. You've spent too much time building walls around yourself in real life. It's hard to access your memories. Try thinking about a time when you were truly happy. I was truly happy with Rebecca, but that memory's tainted now, isn't it? Isabel's breathing was getting faster as though she was out for a run. I need you to get lost in a happy thought or I can't get in. I don't have happy thoughts. Your parents? Dead. Previous loves? Unrequited. Something you look forward to? Something you're looking forward to? You don't want me to do that. You must. I need to know how you freed Molly, if you insist. Suddenly the pathways of Saywood's mind were clear. Isabel could see the memory of the moment Molly was freed, so her mind sped towards it and integrated with it. She relieved the whole event several times, and as she reviewed it, she began to see what she'd been doing wrong. She replayed Saywood's memories several times, drawing in new details each time, over and over again, until she was sure that she could glean no more. It would be enough. What Saywood had done had been an accident, a desperate plea to be saved from. Desperately so but Isabel could see how her mind had worked unconsciously behind that. She should now be able to free more people from the paintings. She let go of Saywood's hands. She smiled, was about to tell Saywood she thought she'd retrieved what she needed, when the thoughts that Saywood had used to distract herself entered her mind. Isabel sat back in horror as she watched. Saywood was holding Sosie in place, using the same mental restraints that he had used against her. The knife she held was covered in blood, and Sosie was screaming to be released as Saywood slowly and deliberately pushed the blade into his right eye. Stop! Screamed Isabel. Build your wall. Stop this now. Saywood did not seem to hear her. Instead, she picked up a butcher's knife and showed it to Sosie before forcing him to display his fingers on an adjacent table. This is for little Edward, she said, and calmly, and chopped off his little finger. Isabel felt like she was walking through fire. She stood up and pushed at Saywood. It made no difference. The hate Saywood was feeling towards Sosie was surging through her. She shook Saywood violently, but it was still not enough. Isabel grasped onto the rage for a moment and used that feeling to slap Saywood across the face as hard as she could. Saywood opened her eyes and the images stopped. She saw Isabel standing before her, saw the sweat dripping from her brow and her makeup all over the place. She felt the pain from where Isabel had struck her, but did not remember it happening. "Did you get what you wanted?" she asked coolly. Isabel fell back into the chair, exhausted. "I think so. What the hell was that?" Saywood shook her head. "A revenge fantasy." "You cannot do those things," cried Isabel. "If you help us, there will be a plan which you will have to adhere to, or people will die." Saywood gritted her teeth. "It was a fantasy. Remember, I've seen what we did to Molly and Sir Teddy. The old man is still scarred by it 56 years after it happened. Have you never fantasised about getting your own back?" Isabel shuddered. "Not like that, no." Isabel leaned forward and took Saywood leaned forward and took Isabel's hand. A tear ran down her cheek, which she wiped away before glaring into Isabel's eyes. "I'm sorry. You told me I needed to fully distract myself so that you could see a pure version of how I rescued Molly. I don't have the capacity for happy thoughts right now. It was the only thing I could think of that would divert my attention. I promise you it was nothing more than that." Isabel nodded and withdrew her hand. She could feel Saywood's sincerity, but it was still troubling. Saywood's voice softened. "Are you all right?" "I have what I need," said Isabel coldly. "I must go now." "I'll see you tomorrow." That should be it. It says, "I will see you tomorrow." Let me just put the contraction in there. "I'll see you tomorrow." Isabel shook her head. "I won't be there. I will ask Geraldine to come and collect you tomorrow morning." Saywood looked at the woman in front of her. Her blouse was drenched to sweat and her makeup was a mess around her face. "At least have a shower. Do you have a change of clothes with you?" "In the car," admitted Isabel. "Please, have a shower and get changed before you go." Isabel could feel regret now emanating from Saywood in waves. She gave a small smile. "Okay, where do I go?" "Follow me to the East Wing," said Saywood. "Give me your keys and I'll get Harris to bring your bag up." Isabel nodded. "The blue one." Saywood stood up. Isabel did the same. "Follow me," said Saywood, and they both left the room. Geraldine collected Saywood from the Ainsley estate at 7 o'clock the next morning. Geraldine gaped as they drove out, especially when Saywood pointed out that the village by the main gates was housing for Harris, Marion and Angela, and groundsmen and a few other staff. "You've fallen on your bloody feet," was her only comment. They hit the motorway about 10 minutes later. Saywood was not really in the mood to have a conversation and spent the whole journey silently building the wall inside her head. She'd assumed that building a second layer would be as easy as building the first one had been, and she was annoyed to find the second layer collapsed very quickly, sometimes after only a couple of rows had gone up, taking the first with it. As she got more annoyed, she found that even completing her first layer with the first layer was a struggle, so eventually she gave up, put in her earbuds, and listened to some music. After a couple of hours, they were parked in a car park. I'm going to lose the word. After a couple of hours, they parked in a car park on the outskirts of the city, whereupon Geraldine walked to an underground station and they caught a tube into the centre of London. Saywood found herself After a couple of hours, they parked in a car park. They were in a car park in the outskirts of the city, whereupon Geraldine walked to an underground station and they caught a tube into the centre of London. Saywood followed Geraldine and soon had no idea where they were until they walked past the Natural History Museum. Eventually they arrived at the correct building and Saywood could see... Eventually they arrived at the conference building and Saywood could see banners up for the Southern Institute Emergency Conference. She took her earbuds and finally spoke to Geraldine as they joined a queue full of very normal-looking people. "It's not a secret organisation," she said. Geraldine shook her head. "No, it was always presented as a charity." It was formed in the Highlands of Scotland in the 1200s by the son of the Earl of Sutherland, who himself had various abilities. After an incident with one of his farmers, he became concerned that more of his subjects might get ideas with the station if they had them too, since it was originally formed to track these people down and kill them. Sutherland eventually met a traveller from Wales, who was the first person we know that had the power to forcibly remove the skills without having to murder anyone, although his victims often not ended their own lives. That kind of is. I've changed that. Often died, not ended their own lives. I've thought about how they die if they lose their abilities, or why. Died soon after. A group formed that became organised, doing the same thing in England, even then they hid behind the banner of philanthropy. So he named ministry after people who murdered innocent men, women and children, snorted Sober in disgust. The group was taken over in the 15th century by a man who recognised that having these powers did not automatically make you dangerous. His name was Sir William MacDonald, and he made the Institute what it is today. Now we'd largely guide and teach. A few of us still have the more unpleasant task of removing abilities from people who have the potential. I'm just going to lose that because that's obvious. We've sort of said that before. Isabel, said Sowood softly, and others like her. Yes, said Geraldine. How many are deemed to be dangerous now? Geraldine nodded. Who's them now? The majority, to be honest, less than 10% are allowed to retain their abilities. Sowood looked surprised. That few? Yet people like Sosie slip through the net. We have many ways of finding out who has potential, but it's not watertight. A lot of charity shops? Geraldine smiled. Yes, and coffee shops. We often sponsor art exhibitions, go to festivals and carnivals and things like that, and at these we always display a selection for prolata and watch for reactions. There's no guarantee. There's no guarantee that we'll catch everyone, but we identify many. Sosie's our only real failure in the UK. Well, they're almost at the front of the queue now, and Geraldine reached into her bag and pulled out the invitations. Sowood was surprised to see a familiar face at the check-in desk. It took a few moments to realise that it was Jagvir from This and Tat, looking exceedingly smart in a grey suit and red tie. He was also wearing a radio and an earpiece. He smiled when he saw Geraldine. Sowood was sure that he was resisting hugging her. "Welcome, ladies," Jagvir said with a huge smile. "There's been a slight change of plan. You've been moved from your original seats and are now in the front row." "The front row?" said Sowood suspiciously. Jagvir nodded. "Both of you," he said, tearing up the original tickets and handing the new ones that had been in a box on the desk in front of him. "I will show you to your seats, if you will follow me." Again, that's too formal. I'll show you to your seats, if you will follow me. Geraldine had gone slightly red, and Sowood was picking up waves of discomfort from her. "What's wrong?" she whispered as Jagvir led them to the conference hall. "Well, I was originally in the safe anonymity of row 30, said Geraldine in some distress. "I would have made more effort to dress up if I'd known I'd be at the front." "Yeah, I probably wouldn't have worn leggings either," said Sowood. "You both look wonderful," said Jagvir with a smile as he led them to their seats. The hall was enormous. Jagvir led them down the steps of the tiered seating towards the front. Approximately half of the seats were already occupied, and Sowood could feel thoughts leaking into her mind. She wished she'd tried to build at least the first layer of a wall before she'd come in. "How many people are there going to be here?" she asked. "The hall will be full. It seats 750, said Jagvir, "plus the security team and the people that are going to be on the stage." All of this about Max Sosie. "Oh, hello. Sorry, Superstar. Hope you didn't send that message too long ago. I was kind of deep in what I was doing. And also, annoyingly, and I don't know why it's not working today, normally when messages come up, they actually appear on the screen, so you type it, and I don't know why that's not happening today. I probably just need to reboot the computer or something. But hello, thank you for watching. All this about Max Sosie, asked Sowood. "Yes, most people here don't know that yet. They'll be finding out in a moment." Sowood swallowed. She was not sure if knowing that they were taking the threat so seriously inspired or terrified her, and the fact that there were this many people here, all with abilities like hers, was scary. Knowing that she was potentially stronger than most of them was even more daunting. They took their seats, and Geraldine smiled at her. "I can tell you're tense." "You're reading my mind?" "No, just your face, dear. Have another go at building your wall. Just do the first layer, it should help." For the next 20 minutes, as the room filled up, Sowood kept her eyes closed and tried to pretend that none of it was happening. The first couple of tries to raise her barrier failed, but on the third attempt the wall went up quickly. She resisted the urge to build the second layer and opened her eyes cautiously when she was done. Geraldine smiled at her. "Well done, you're not sending at all," she said. There was a long desk in the centre of the stage that had 4 chairs behind it and 4 microphones. Behind them was a red curtain. People continued to talk for a few more moments until the lights dimmed. Sowood turned and looked behind her. The hall was now full. She noticed that Jagvir and another man had taken up a position by one of the closed doors and saw two more members of the security team by the entrance to the other side. 3 people stepped from the wings and onto the stage and sat down in front of the three of the 4 microphones. An older man with a white beard tapped his microphone before speaking into it. He had a soft voice, but it still sounded loud when it boomed out of the sound system in the hall. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for attending this extraordinary meeting of the Sutherland Institute. I need to remind you that everything we talk about here today is confidential and may only be discussed with other attendees. The subject that we're going to talk about is highly classified. Only once it is resolved will it be made public amongst everyone affiliated with the Institute and worldwide. Sabre glanced around her. She wished that she could read the room to see what they were thinking, then remembered Isabel's warning that using her abilities could become addictive. She shook her head slightly and concentrated on the stage. The professorial-looking man on the stage... Let's lose the repetition of on the stage. Page 9. The professorial man, Robert Featherstone, looked around the room. I am here to tell you that we have discovered that Maximilian Cecilius is not dead. So we did not need to open her mind to gauge the immediate reaction. She could hear gasps and sighs from those around and behind her. That is correct, my friends, said Featherstone. The accounts of his execution in 1897 are incorrect. We're not quite sure what happened, but we believe that his powers had become so great that he was able to show everyone in the execution chamber what they expected to see. He is not so powerful that he can physically manipulate the actions of more than one person at a time, but it does seem that he can make a large number of people see what he wants them to see. He pointed to one of his colleagues on the stage. I will hand you over to the director of the archive, Mrs. Meredith Lawson. Thank you, Chairman, said Meredith. This man has hidden from us for over 120 years. We think that some of our unresolved disappearances since then are down to him. We have some evidence, in fact, that directly links Sosie to the disappearance of my mother, Dawn Vickery, in 1962. So we looked across at Geraldine. Dawn was the name of the woman that had rescued Sir Teddy. Thanks to his memory seeping into her mind, she even knew what Dawn had looked like. She wondered if Isabel had taken the information from her, or if they'd obtained it another way. Thanks to the skills of Isabel Myerscough, we've been able to prove that Sosie is still alive, although we have been unable to detain him, continued Meredith. He is out there, still immensely powerful and still very, very dangerous. We lost him last week, but thanks to Isabel, we've been able to locate him again. He's in a property that we believe he owns in Scotland. There is one more thing that we need to tell you. He has an ability that Dawn Vickery suspected him of having back in the 60s. At the time, nobody believed her. We know that she went out on her own to prove that she was right, and Sosie caught her. I hand you over to Lady Khalida Desai, our abilities coordinator. The third person behind the desk was wearing a full skirt, long-sleeved top and a mask that completely shrouded her face. A veil hung from the bottom of the mask, obscuring her neck. She was also wearing long gloves that completely covered the parts of her hands and arms that were not covered by her clothing. She was wearing a medium-sized silver locket on a chain around her neck. Ed Saywood recognised her as the person accompanying Isabel in the shop on the day that Cavey had died. Thank you, Meredith, she said. Lady Desai was the only person to have anything other than a microphone on the desk in front of her. She had an open laptop, and as she spoke, she waved to the gallery at the back of the room. Bring the lights down, please, she said, and the projector up. There was a pause as the lights dimmed and an image appeared on the screen behind the desk. It was the image of a painting, and on the painting was a 1940... Right, that's just badly worded. Let's just tidy that up. It was the image of a painting of a 1940s bomber with a female pilot standing in front of it. So we recognise it as one of the images from the gallery at Elvington. We believe that Sosie is capable of trapping his victims in canvas. They don't believe it, they know it. We know that Sosie is capable of trapping his victims in canvas. Whilst it is not something that we yet know how to do, my team have worked out, in theory at least, how he does it. Information on how to reverse the process that we received yesterday reinforces that theory. We've not been able to test it yet, but we believe that it will work. Saywood nodded. Isabel was much higher up in this group than she had hitherto suspected. What I'm going to say now is rather distressing. We believe that Sosie kidnaps people, subjects them to torture and sexual assault, and then, rather than killing them, which would mean disposing of the body, traps them in a picture. One young lady has been freed, and unfortunately, we know this is what happened to her. Lady Desai pressed a button on the computer and another picture came up on the screen, one that made Saywood gasp and close her eyes. Saywood gasped, closed her eyes, then hissed in frustration as a wall came tumbling down in front of her. She could suddenly feel anticipation and fear from the people around her, and also cold hatred coming from many, but most strongly from Meredith, who was thinking about her mother. This is a young lady called Molly Clark, who went missing in August 1915. Sosie saw her crying after... Shall I change that to Smith? No. This is a young lady called Molly Clark who went missing in August 1915. Sosie saw her crying after a sweetheart had left to go to fight in the Great War from Folkestone Docks. He kidnapped her and abused her for several days before trapping her. She was freed last week by a new member of the Institute, one that Sosie also tried to dispose of. The young lady in question is here today. She's only just discovered what power she has, but she is very strong indeed. She accidentally freed Miss Clark, but was able to show Isabel Marskoff what she did, which is how we now know theoretically how to free other people. I'm not a member of your bloody institute, Saywood thought angrily. Few people immediately swung their heads around to look at her, and she looked away. Her instinct was to build a new wall, but the concentration required to do that probably was to miss out on what else was said. Lady Desai showed some more paintings, leaving each one on the screen for a few seconds before moving on to the next. One of the pictures was of what looked like the body of a teenage boy in a wheelchair, but strangely its face was that of an older woman. Saywood could feel the anxiety peak in Meredith when that picture appeared. Sosie is a monster. We have tried to remove him once before, and it did not work. We're here to tell you that we must do it again, and that we must do it right this time. Everyone in this room has an ability that we will need to use in this operation, and with enough of us together, we believe that we have enough strength to overpower and capture Sosie. In a moment, I'll be spelling out what specific talents we need and how many people with that power we require to volunteer. There was an air of nervousness in the room. Geraldine reached out instinctively and grabbed Saywood's hand, giving her a supportive glance. Saywood wanted to snatch the hand away, but she knew that Geraldine had only done it because she could sense how uneasy she was, so she mouthed thanks at the older woman before pulling her hand away. Meredith Lawson spoke again. This has to be voluntary. It is dangerous, and whilst we will do all we can to protect each other, there is a possibility that some of us will not come back. This operation is only possible because of the new person that we have discovered. She has the potential to be one of those powerful of our number, and she has already agreed to help us in this endeavour. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome Miss Saywood Amapofo to the stage. Geraldine stood up, and Saywood suddenly realised that Jagvir was on the other side of her. She was being led to the stage. She gave him a look of absolute fury as she climbed the steps, before sitting down in the empty chair and staring at the microphone in front of her. Miss Amapofo did not know that we were going to ask her to join us, said Meredith. This brave young lady has already been hurt by Sosie, but escaped to tell the tale. She's given us a lot of the information that we need to finally put an end to him. I don't know if you'll feel comfortable saying anything, Saywood. You don't have to, but the floor is yours if you do. Saywood looked at the microphone in front of her, then at the hundreds of people watching her in the auditorium. She said, can I have a moment? I need to build my wall. She could feel waves of hope and respect aimed at her, emanating from hundreds of sources around the room. I can see what you're all thinking, and to be honest, it's a little much. Bear with me. She closed her eyes and the wall almost sprang up in front of her. It took less than 5 seconds, the quickest she'd ever done it. She considered trying a second layer, but as she had not managed to successfully finish one yet, she decided not to. She opened her eyes again and could see an astonished and impressed look on Meredith Lawson's face. Thank you, she said quietly, the sound system amplifying her voice and spreading it around the theatre. Thank you for bearing with me. I don't have all that much to contribute, but there is one thing I can say. Max Sosie is a monster. I've been helping Molly Clark to adjust and recuperate, and it's going to take her a very long time. He has potentially done this to hundreds of us over the centuries. She looked to Meredith Lawson, who was nodding with tears forming in her eyes. Your mother, for example. She looked back at the audience. We cannot afford to be nice. We cannot afford to give this man a chance. If we are weak, he will destroy us. We have to do this with clear intent. It's no use capturing him. He will hold our noble intentions against us. There can only be one end to this. And I'm going to lose the word mission because that doesn't fit, even though I'm breaking the flow as I read this. Let's lose the word mission. There can only be one end to this, and it is the only reason that I'm prepared to be involved. Max Sosie must die. Nothing else will keep us safe. She sat back away from the microphone and looked at all of the stunned faces, both around her on the stage and in the auditorium. Then, Lady Desai, I'm going to say she stood and began to clap. And that's really significant. Because And then Lady Desai stood and began to clap. There was a slow ripple as someone else in the audience joined in, then more. She looked across and saw Geraldine clapping with a smile on her face. This was utterly humiliating and she could stand it no more. She stood up, sending the chair flying, and rushed down the steps to the auditorium floor. Jagvir rushed towards her. "I'm going to be sick," stated Saywood, glaring at him. Jagvir nodded and dragged her through the doors to the nearest bathroom, where Saywood dashed into a cubicle, opened the toilet seat and emptied her stomach. Okay, that was all right, actually. Almost no significant changes. So anybody who watches me do this regularly will know that I'm now going to run all of that through Grammarly, just to make sure that there are no silly little errors that I've missed. But this paragraph, this will have been through Grammarly before. It's just that whenever I adjust it or change it, I run it through Grammarly just to be on the safe side. So let me just find it. Bear with. There we go. The in front of her, I will accept that. That can go. Successfully learned. Yeah, that'd be better like that, wouldn't it? What score is it giving me, by the way? 87, yeah, I'll have that. No, that's exactly what I want to say, so I'm not changing that. Remove the comma. I have one more request from you. Request, no, that's somebody speaking, so I'm going to leave it as it is. The opposite. No, that's the way she speaks, I'm leaving that. Remove the comma. Add a comma. Remove the comma. I've added that to my spelling, but okay. There we go. So that didn't take very long. As I say, purely because I have done this chapter before through Grammarly. I just, every time I change things, every time I do another draft, I run through it. Some of my chapters, some of the drafts have been significantly different. I hasten to add, this one isn't. Right, let's just pop this back into... There we go. That's another chapter signed off. Should have done this last night, but I really wasn't in the mood. Okay, so that's chapter 23 signed off. Let me just move it. I like to move it. But I don't want to prove it. Right, chapter 23 signed off. Chapter 24. Let's do. Why does it open it like that? Bloody thing. Right, hang on. Nope, I just closed it by mistake. Right then, so might as well crack straight into chapter 24. So, chapter 24, decisions. Are those jeans I see you wearing, Molly? Sir Teddy rolled forward in his chair and smiled at her. She was sitting in the breakfast room eating some toast and marmalade. Every morning Marion tried to attempt to eat something different, but every day she stuck to toast and tea. Molly blushed. Well, I've been watching some television. I can see that a lot of people are wearing them. She looked embarrassed. They make me feel I'm not wearing anything. I'm so used to skirts or dresses that I can feel swishing around my legs. I keep worrying I've forgotten to put anything on. Sir Teddy smiled, then looked at her somewhat critically. The collared top she was wearing was buttoned up to the neck, and it had frills on the front, lace patterns on the long sleeves, and elaborate cuffs that were much larger than anything else she was wearing. They don't go with that top. Do you remember the T-shirts that we bought you? Molly did remember. She'd found that female T-shirts were too figure-hugging and insisted on being allowed to buy men's. I don't like them either. I would never tell you what you should feel comfortable wearing, said Sir Teddy, but do consider trying one. Marion came in with Teddy's cooked breakfast on a tray, and she glanced down at Molly. Like the jeans, not sure about the top, though. That's what Edward said, said Molly, blushing. Finish your breakfast, said Marion, then if you don't mind, I will look through your wardrobe and choose something more suitable. Molly bit into a toast and nodded. When Saywood gets up, I don't want to disturb her. Marion walked back into the kitchen, catching her employer's eyes as she walked past, rolling her eyes with mock indignation. Sir Teddy grinned back at her. This had become a bit of a morning ritual. However, in 10 days, it was the first time Molly had tried wearing something a bit more modern. Molly was starting to come to terms with the changes in her life. It's just a bit of a repetition there, so I'm just going to... Molly was beginning to come to terms with the change in life. She started to enjoy television, although she was occasionally shocked by the nudity in some of the language used. Some of the language, I'm going to lose the word used. Some of the language, the more she was exposed to it, the less it worried her. She made a point of watching a news bulletin every day and was starting to recognise certain people, and she and Sir Teddy spent half an hour every day talking about one of the years that she had missed. Last night they talked about 1923, which was the last year that he had experienced until 1962. 10 minutes later, Saywood wandered down. She was wearing a thick white dressing gown and some pink slippers, and had only come down to her kitchen in the east wing to get some water. Marion had heard her, knocked on the door and told her she ought to come through and have some breakfast. Saywood intended to go up and get changed, but Marion had done none of it and practically dragged her through to the breakfast room. Caught this one skulking about her kitchen, said Marion with a grin. She keeps missing meals, so this morning she's having a proper fry-up. Saywood looked embarrassed. I came down for a glass of water. Sorry, I'm not appropriately dressed. For whom? Inquired Sir Teddy. This is your home for the time being, Miss Hammerpofo. For as long as you wish it to be. If you want to wander down your dressing gown for breakfast, then nobody here is going to judge you. Saywood reluctantly sat down, drawing her dressing gown tighter around her. Please call me Saywood, she said with a faint smile. She glanced at Molly, who she'd sat down next to. The jeans suit you. Maybe try a different top with it, though. As Molly ate some more of her toast, Saywood yawned and stretched. You slept better last night, she said. I don't think you had a nightmare. Molly smiled. Oh, there's a printing glitch on this. I have to do this bit off the screen. Don't think I did. I think I might be able to move into my own room soon, if that's okay. Molly Saywood looked jealously at the marmalade. Don't rush, only when you're ready. The first few nights had been difficult. Molly had relived what Sosie had done to her in such vivid dreams that Saywood often woke up crying or screaming as well. As Molly started to feel more comfortable, and more importantly safer, the dreams had become less intense and they usually did not wake Saywood anymore. She considered trying to build a wall before she went to bed last night, but she didn't want Molly to suffer alone, so she left her mind unguarded, just in case. Man arrived with a plate full of food and set it down in front of Saywood. Now that it was in front of her, it did look rather good. There were a couple of slices of toast at the side that were begging to be smothered with some thick cut. I'm going to put marmalade, I know. Saywood grinned as Molly drained the last of her tea. Are you finished there, my love? Said Marion. Molly smiled, nodded, and Marion picked up the plate, cup and saucer. Right then, wardrobe, now. Molly stood up, pushed a chair in and followed Marion out of the kitchen. Saywood ate her food in silence. How are you this morning? Asked Sir Teddy after a few minutes. Have you heard from Miss Taylor? Saywood shook her head, so he continued. And have you made any other decisions about the future? So pushed some egg yolk onto some bacon and put it in her mouth and nodded. She chewed, swallowed her food and then looked up at Sir Teddy. Yes, I have. I'm not going back to university. Not this year anyway. And the Institute has given me a grant to live from whilst I'm helping them with Max Sosie. So I think it would be safer to give up my job as well. I'm going to go into town tomorrow and tell my tutor and my boss in person. Then that's me done with the city. Sir Teddy nodded. I can make Angela the car available to you if you like. So shook her head. No, thank you. I can afford a taxi or a bus. I would like to contribute to my board as well. It feels wrong staying here and not paying my way. Sir Teddy chuckled. No, he said with a smile. You are the reason that Molly is adjusting to life here in the 21st century. The care and time you have taken with her have been beyond the call of duty. And if anything, I should be paying you. Saywood opened her mouth to protest, but Sir Teddy shook his head. So I think we are at least even, Miss Amapofo. Saywood shook her head. Please don't call me that. I'm not all that good at informality, my dear. Saywood looked up and he noticed that her eyes were red. He called me that, Sir Teddy, when he hurt me. It's not about the formality. It just takes me back. Sir Teddy opened his eyes in surprise and wheeled a chair around from the other side of the table. He grabbed Saywood's hand and squeezed it gently, a deep look of sorrow crossing his lined face. Why is there a fucking comma there? Sorry. I'm sorry, Saywood. I had no idea. She was shocked to see that he had tears in his eyes as well. What are you crying for? She sniffed. I can't bear the thought of either of you or Molly being hurt, admitted, especially knowing now what he did to Molly. Saywood looked surprised. She told you? No, said Sir Teddy, but when she dreamed of those horrors, you could see it, and you inadvertently shared it. Saywood shrieked with horror, snatched her hand away and covered her face. Oh, my God, I'm so sorry. Sir Teddy shook his head. Don't be, my dear. What about the others? Had Marion, Andrew, and Mr. Harris seen it too? Teddy shook his head. It appears that they were out of range in their homes. Saywood could not meet his gaze. I sometimes dreamed about what he did to me. Did you see that? Sir Teddy nodded. That is why it is my pleasure to help you. We're all victims of that creature, Saywood. I will do anything to help you and Molly. She's been in my thoughts for over 60 years. I was worried that what he did would have destroyed her, but your formidable strength of character is helping us both so much more than you realise. He grabbed her hand again. Please never feel like you're an imposition, Saywood. We both benefit so much from your presence. If you want to live here forever, it will be my pleasure. Saywood felt sincerity streaming from him. Thank you, she said eventually. Sir Teddy let her hand go. So is there a plan to deal with Sosie? Saywood nodded. They're putting it together now. That's what yesterday was about. They need my help to stop him this time. I'm not sure what is expected of me, but once they have worked out exactly what they're doing, I will be informed. We will be having practice runs, rehearsals and everything. Where? I don't know. If it will help to do the dry run here, then I'm happy for that. If it will help to do the dry run here, then I'm happy for that to happen. He pointed towards the window overlooking the extensive grounds. We have the space. Saywood wanted to say no immediately, but the truthfulness of his words struck her with force. She blinked. I will make the offer to the Institute. I will make the offer to the Institute on your behalf. She said. He pushed his chair back slightly. Thank you, my dear, he said. At that moment, Molly dashed into the breakfast room. What do you think? She'd finally decided to let her hair down, no doubt prompted by Marion, and it was looser around her shoulders instead of tied up at the back. The red T-shirt she'd chosen for her was neither revealingly tight nor over baggy, and then Gizna had the addition of a thick leather belt. She had a grin on her face, and for the first time she looked like she was the product of the current century and not the previous one. Both Saywood and Sir Teddy smiled. You look like a new person, said Sir Teddy. You look amazing, Molly. Saywood looked her up and down. Do you feel comfortable? She asked. No, said Molly, shaking her head and laughing with embarrassment. I mean, I do around you, but I wouldn't go out like this. You don't have to, said Teddy with a huge smile. Saywood could pick up his emotions and suddenly realised something she'd not understood before about the depth of feeling the old man had for Molly. It was love, deep and unconditional. When he said that he would do anything for her, he meant it. You scrub up all right, girl, said Saywood with a smile. Yeah, well, don't get any ideas, declared Molly. It was the first time she'd openly addressed... I don't think I need to over-explain that bit. Yeah, well, don't you get any ideas, declared Molly. Saywood rolled her eyes and stuck out a tongue which sent Molly into peals of helpless laughter. Right, I don't need to over-explain. That works just as well. Thank you. At 10 o'clock on Monday morning, Saywood was sitting outside the university office of her personal. At 10 o'clock on Monday morning, Saywood was sitting outside the office of her personal tutor, Marie Evans. They had been due to meet at 9:30. but something had delayed Marie. She'd sent Saywood a text message to apologise. Saywood was now in the corridor on the chair opposite the office door, getting glared at as people pushed past to get from one class to another. She chose to use the time to build a wall and was astonished at how quickly the first layer had come together. She tried to build a second and managed to fill half the sky with her large grey bricks before it had collapsed. She shook her head, rebuilt the first layer, and opened her eyes, tried to think about something else. Rebecca would be here somewhere today. Saywood had deliberately timed her meeting with Marie, and safe in the knowledge that Rebecca would be in another building. The desire to see her was almost physical. Oh, hello. Oh, hello. Sorry, I'm in Planet Richard, and also weirdly, messages today aren't coming up on the main screen. So, hello, Shy Revenge. Sorry, hopefully I didn't miss that from too long ago. Nice to see you. Happy time zone. So he looked at a watch. If a meeting with Marie had not ended by 11, then there was a risk they might run into each other. Saywood did not want that. She was yearning to see her, but there was a good chance the effects of her influence were wearing off by now. Whilst their goodbye had been difficult, it had been the best they were going to manage under the circumstances. At that moment, Marie charged along the corridor containing the now thinning melee of students. She saw Saywood sitting on the chair with her legs to the side, so she took up less. Let's just edit that. The moment Marie charged along the corridor containing the now thinning melee of students, she saw Saywood sitting on the chair outside her office. Sorry I'm late, she said. Do come in. She struggled with the key for a few seconds and unlocked the door. Saywood stood and entered the room, closing the door behind her. Marie had placed a coat on a hook on the wall and dumped her bag on her desk, which was cluttered with papers that almost obscured a computer keyboard. Marie looked across at Saywood. Feel free to hang up your coat. Saywood deposited on the spare hook and found herself being hugged. Marie was not an especially physical person, but she knew some of what had happened to her student. How are you getting on? Marie asked her. I'm okay, said Saywood. Rebecca told us what had happened and the police did fuck all about it for 5 days, said Marie in a voice that was a combination of sympathy and anger. I can't imagine how terrifying that must have been. The story of her kidnap and subsequent rescue by the police was how the story had played out in the local and to some degree national. Oh, hello. Yes, I did sleep better last night, hence why I'm actually managing to do some work today. Yeah, as I seem to say to everybody who pops up, I don't know why the messages aren't appearing on the screen today, but I can see them on my phone. Rebecca told what happened and how the police did fuck all about it for 5 days, said Marie in a voice that was a combination of sympathy and anger. I can't imagine how terrifying that must have been. The story of her kidnapping and subsequent rescue by the police was how the story played out in the local and to some degree national media. Take as much time as you need, Saywood. You're welcome back when you are ready. Saywood made a clicking noise with her mouth. Thing is, I'm not sure I want to come back, that is. Not this year, anyway. Marie nodded, an understanding look on her face. I don't blame you. Well, you had submitted nearly all your coursework for the first semester, and your tutors have agreed to submit estimated grades for your last couple of pieces of work. So if you want to come back next year, or the year after, for the second semester, we will gladly reserve a place for you. Thank you, said Saywood. The truth is, I don't know what I want. I'm not ready to come back now. As for next year, she shook her head and looked uncertain. Marie smiled. You work so hard, Saywood, but I do understand these things take time to rationalise. I'm glad you came to see me. I'm sorry to hear about you and Rebecca. Saywood frowned. What about us? Well, I tried talking to her on Friday, but she just got angry and said that you had split up. Said you had nothing to do with each other. Seemed really pissed off at me for asking. Marie tried to look charitable, but an expression of irritation crossed her face. I think your behaviour was a little bit harsh, to tell you the truth. She almost shouted at me. She's had a hard time too, said Saywood. Not as hard as you, though. You might think that, said Saywood softly. Please don't judge her too harshly, Marie. She had a lot going on, not just me missing. We were on the verge of splitting up anyway. She was there for me when I needed her, and that's all that matters. Marie took a deep breath and nodded. Okay, so if you don't want to come back this academic year. Is that your final decision? Saywood nodded. Yes, she smiled. Final answer. Well, I've already spoken to your head, of course, and he's happy with that. He hopes you're recovering okay. Just let us know in early February next year if you want to return then. Or maybe the following year. Rebecca will have graduated by then. Marie smiled. What do you intend to do with yourself? Oh, I've fallen in with a secret coven that needs my help to destroy an immortal artist who magically traps people in paintings, was what she wanted to say. I'm not sure, she said out loud. Will you be okay for money? Do you have somewhere to go? Yes, all taken care of. Family? No, friends. New friends, kind of a support group. They've been brilliant. Marie smiled at her. You're so brave, Saywood. I talk to you now. I talk to you now. Talking to you now would be a better way of saying that. Oh, it is. Oh, good. Good, because I got the email to say it was, and I clicked on the link, and it was still saying write the first review. And is it on all Amazons? Is it where it should be? Is it on Amazon.com? Let me try Amazon.com as well whilst I'm here, actually. Let me just check, because I didn't think to check that. I just checked .co.uk. I haven't checked. No, I shall have a quick look now. Case of the fatal flaw. Be the first to write a review. Have you heard Heathrow is closed? Yes, I did see that. That's going to be bloody chaos for a few days, because it's not only... it's going to muck everything up. So not only, obviously, I mean, there are planes that have either had to divert to other airports, or some that have had to go back to where they came from, or some that haven't taken off to come home at all. So it's going to absolutely screw things up for the next few days, big time. And it'll have a knock-on effect to when I'm working, although the flight I'm on, outbound, will be fine. Unless, of course, the airplanes aren't there to do it, which is a possibility. And I got the email at 8 p.m. last night. Okay, I will keep checking. Yes, so I'm not looking forward to... Well, I'm saying... What day is it today? It's Friday today, isn't it? So I'm hoping by Monday they'll have recovered. But the thing is, what makes things more complicated is... So, for example, the flight that was due back today... If there's a flight due back today that can't come back... Some of those people, if it was a shorter trip where you only get 2 days off, some of those people that were due to return to Heathrow today might be due to be on the flight I was due to be on Monday. Plus the aeroplane might be in the wrong place. So it's going to be a bit of a... they're going to declare... the company have an agreement with our union that basically... that it's called a disruption agreement, and it basically changes the rules of what they can do with us in times of severe need. And let's face it, oh, okay, that's interesting. All right, fair enough. I just assumed with a computer, it's kind of it would be immediate. But let me just have a look on .co.uk then, because when I checked it yesterday, it wasn't. But let's have a look. T.G. Campbell. Oh, it's almost like I've searched for you before. The moment I type in T, your whole name comes up. Right. Let's have a look. Oh, I can see it's got a... yes, I can see that it's got... I can see that it's got a rating now and one review. Let me have a look. Lovely. Cool. That's definitely there then. Excellent. Hope you're happy with the review, by the way. I don't know if you actually read it or just checked it's there. But... Family, no, friends, new friends, kind of a support group. They've been brilliant. Marie smiled at her. You're so brave, Sowood. Talking to you now, it's hard to believe you went through all of that. Through all of that. All of that. Is it the same? Yes, I literally copied and pasted it word for word. Right, I'm going to have to put some changes in now. No, it is literally the same as the review on Goodreads and the story graph, yeah. Talking to you now, it's hard to believe we went through all of that. Did they get him? No, said Sowood. Don't think they will either. Are you scared? No. Angry. Good, I'm glad you approve. So, Marie shook her head again. I think you're doing the right thing by taking the time off. You have my number. If there's anything you need, ever, just call or message me. I will. After the meeting, Saywood walked the short distance to the shop. She'd already phoned ahead to check if Graham would be in. As soon as he saw her, he hugged her and dragged her into the staff room, locking it behind him. "I'm sorry, I knew you said no hugging," he said shamefacedly. "I was so worried about you. You don't need to rush back. Take any time you need." "I don't think I'm coming back," said Saywood. "Thank you so much. Yeah, have fun at work. I'll probably do another session this evening. I need to get the chapter I'm on now and the next one done, and that gets me up to date for yesterday. Then I need to get 2 more done to be up to date for where I need to be today." Anyway, Graham had just poured them both a tea. "Yeah, I had a feeling," he said. He sniffed and smiled bravely back at her. "I'll miss you, Saywood. You're so bloody reliable compared to this, especially compared to this lot." One of her colleagues, a man in his 30s called Dan, tried to walk into the staff room, but Graham had drawn the bolt across. Instead, Dan waved and blew Saywood a kiss through the window. "I'm leaving uni as well," said Saywood, taking a sip of her tea. It was always too strong when Graham made it, and he tried to make up for it by putting too much milk in as well. "I bet they're as sad to see you go as I am," he said. There was a knock on the door. "Not now, Dan," he yelled. "They say I can come back next year if I want to," Saywood said. "And will you?" "Dunno." "Well, if you do, pop in and see me. I can't create a vacancy for you, but you know what the staff turnover here is like. I'm sure I'll better find you something." They chatted and Saywood finished her tea. At her request, Graham walked her outside, keeping everyone else away. They just wanted to see if she was okay. They just wanted to see if she was okay. "Of course you are." "Oh, well, yes." "Oh, this is family, isn't it, rather than an event? Or is it the event?" My brain's just gone to mush. "Oh no, it's the event, isn't it?" At her request, Graham walked her outside, keeping everyone else away. They just wanted to see if she was okay, but since she did not need the attention at the moment. She walked out of the shop with a spring in her step. She decided to go and see Geraldine and Jagger at the charity shop before she got the bus home. And as she walked back towards the city centre, she passed the alleyway, the one where Sosie had incapacitated her. She was tempted to walk down it. It was a shortcut to where she wanted to go, but something told her this was a foolish idea. She was about to walk past when something else made her stop. It was not intuition this time. It was a strange sensation floating at the back of her mind. She continued walking down the road, and it stopped. She turned, and she walked back past the entrance to the alley. She could sense it again, tugging at her consciousness. There was nobody about, and at this time of day she could see straight down to the other side of the alley. It was empty and the walls were flat, so there were no alcoves anyone could hide in. She turned into the alleyway. Immediately the sensation became more intense. She took another few steps and the volume increased. It was not uncomfortable yet, but it became louder and more persistent with every step. Nervous now, she walked another 10 paces into the alley. She could make out what the sound was now, like a scream, but frozen, like the sound she'd heard from Sosie's paintings in his fearsome gallery. She took some more tentative steps in, and suddenly there was a feeling to go with the scream, pain and fear. She could see something on the bricks about halfway up the alley, at exactly the point that Sosie had intercepted her. She started running, terrified about what she would find, but knowing that she had to see it. There was an image painted into the bricks, and as she got closer, she could see that it was a face. She cried out in horror and anger as she stood before the giant piece of street art. It was 8 feet tall. Half of the image was Rebecca's face, and although her expression was neutral in the picture, Saywood felt her agony. The other half of the face was Saywood's. Feeling her knees go weak, she knelt on the floor, dropping her bag. She looked both ways up the alley, but there was nobody approaching from either direction. Saywood knew she ought to call someone for help, but immediate priority was to get her breathing under control. Slowly and deliberately, she closed her eyes and built the wall around her mind. As distracted as she was, she completed it on the second attempt. She could no longer hear Rebecca's terrified wail. Saywood knelt in front of the picture. When Isabel had extracted the pure, unblemished memory of how she had freed Molly from her mind, Saywood had examined what Isabel had seen. She knew what she needed to do. Saywood stayed there for another few minutes until she was completely calm. She would soon have to drop the shield around her mind and synchronise her thoughts with Rebecca's. At that point, she could pull her free. Instead of allowing the wall to collapse, Saywood dismantled it gently so the scream returned slowly and at a rate that would not overwhelm her. Once the barrier was down completely, she read the emotions coming from the image. When she understood what Rebecca was saying, she almost felt sick. She was thinking she would rather die than go through that again. She latched onto that terrible feeling and slowly started to think the same thoughts. This ought to work. She'd done it before. She tried to ignore the pain and suffering and the cry, whilst also attempting to emulate the exact tone and pitch of it. She could feel her mind becoming one with Rebecca's. They were synchronising. As horrible as emotions that she was feeling were, she knew that she only had to manage it for a few more seconds and then Rebecca would be free. She felt their minds touching. She could feel their minds touching. It was just a case of pulling her out. Saywood's body lurched suddenly, and the scream changed. She could still hear Rebecca, but now their minds were joined. Instead of Saywood pulling her out, Saywood was angry. I'm going to read this properly because I'm getting the words mixed up because I'm rushing. Start again. Saywood's body suddenly lurched as the scream changed. She could hear Rebecca, but now their minds were joined. Instead of Saywood pulling her out, Rebecca was angrily trying to pull her in. It was a trap. She resisted and tried to rebuild the wall in her mind, but it was too late. Saywood opened her eyes, but she could feel herself being drawn into the picture. In desperation, she tried to find something on the floor she could use to knock herself out with. There were only some tiny pebbles and mud. There were only tiny pebbles and mud. I'll put some in there twice. Let me just lose those unnecessary words. Only tiny pebbles and some mud. She threw herself forward into the real wall before her and smashed her head into it. She could feel blood pouring from a cut in her forehead, but she was still conscious. She rested her hands on the wall and smashed her head into it over and over again until she felt consciousness slipping away. Was it enough? Was she slipping into a head trauma-induced unconscious state or becoming, like Rebecca, a further victim of Max Sosi? She'd guess if she ever woke up, she would have her answer. Dun dun dun! Right, let me just... Again... Very little I needed to change in that. It was most of the changes were, as I said, the feedback I had was for stuff earlier in the book. I will quickly check my notes in a moment. So file, export to Word, drag it into Grammarly. And what score are these lovely people going to give me today? 86, that's not bad. Oh, T-shirts is a capital letter, is it? All right, I'll go with that. Figure hugging, remove the comma. Okay. That's not, remove the comma. Thick cut, okay. Okay. '86. Yeah, but bearing in mind this has been through this before. It's not the first time it's been through this. All I'm really doing is checking that I haven't made any horrendous grammatical errors in the changes I've made. So, she'd finally decided to let her hair down. Yeah, you're right. I don't need the word person in there. That's absolutely right. Pissed off at me. Yeah, we'll lose the really. But there was nobody approaching. Should I say nobody was? That's probably what it wants me to say, isn't it? Approaching from either direction. Yeah, that's better. Lovely. Right, fine. Again, I'm just thinking that's wanting me to say feeling her knees weaken, isn't it? Right, anyway, let's download that, drag it up there, minimize you, open you. What's this doing? Stupid. Okay. Right, so that's another chapter knocked off. Let me just quickly, I believe I saw an 87 once you made the grammar changes. I think so, let's have a look. Yes, I'll live with 87. I got one chapter up to 90 once, but thing is, some of the ones it suggests, particularly when somebody's speaking, I'm not going to change it because that's how they speak. I do have the habit of overusing words like really and actually, and one of the last checks I will do will be a really actually check. I've got a list of other things I overuse in a notebook somewhere, and once I've put all of the chapters back together to make one document, then I shall go through it all. And yeah, just want to, I'm paranoid this isn't right, so I'm just going to, oh, it was the bit at the end that I know I changed. Tiny Pebbles and Mud, yeah, that's it. Right, so chapter 24. No, not Empress of the Trees, The Artist. Chapter 24 is done. Right. Chapter 25. Is it going to do the silly thing with the formatting? Yes, it is. Thank you for that. Right, so this is the final chapter that I've pre-read. Yeah, it's a good tool, but it's very sensible to not just go accept, because it will do just weird stuff. Right then, chapter 25, The Survivor. Saywood woke up. Before she opened her eyes, she was aware of a dull pain in her head. Recent memories flooded back into her mind. Sosie had got to Rebecca. He had trapped her in a piece of artwork, this time a piece of street art rather than something on canvas. Saywood shuddered. If Molly's experiences were anything to go by, he'd made Rebecca suffer before he trapped her. She could feel tears start to form in her eyes. Please no, not that, not Rebecca. I think she's awake. Saywood heard a voice somewhere close to her and realised that she had not opened her eyes. Tentatively she did so, to see Molly looking down at her with a broad smile on her face. Easy, girl, she said. Are you all right? Can you understand me? Poor Rebecca. Yeah. Yeah. Hold that thought. Rebecca is one of my favourite characters, and doing that to her was almost as painful as what happens at the end of this chapter. The scene where Saywood and Rebecca, they actually kind of, although they're splitting up, they kind of agree to meet and have an amicable kind of goodbye rather than a fraught one. And it's really sweet, but it was so hard to write because I knew what was coming. I wrote that last scene where they say goodbye in tears. Anyway, Saywood was aware that her mouth was dry and that Molly was squeezing her hand. Where am I? She asked. It's a hospital, said Molly. A special one that Sir Teddy paid for. Private, asked Saywood. That's the word, exclaimed Molly. There have been a few of us here to see you. We don't understand what happened. Who else has been? Asked Saywood. Rebecca? She hoped that perhaps she'd managed to free her, and that she was also in this hospital somewhere. No, said Molly sadly, but Isabella's come in, as well as Marion and Geraldine. A lady with a scary mask, and a posh lady called Mary something or other. Meredith? Asked Saywood. Yeah, I think so, said Molly. They all want to know what happened to you. Whatever they had planned for Sosie, they've had to stop and wait till you're better. What about Sir Teddy? Asked Saywood. I thought he would be here. He is, said Molly. He's with Isabel in the canteen. They're bringing coffees. They probably haven't got you one, though. They thought you were still asleep. I better let nurse and Sir Teddy know you're awake. I won't be long. Molly walked along the corridor. In fact, she almost bounced down it, so happy that Saywood was conscious. She entered the canteen and saw Sir Teddy and Isabel talking at a table. The printer, I need a new toner, in the corner. They almost jumped when she bounced in. She's awake, shouted Molly excitedly and far too loudly, leaving nobody in the room in any doubt about Saywood's new state of consciousness. She saw a large smile of relief cross Sir Teddy's face, and Isabel also looked pleased. Is she talking? Asked Isabel. Molly nodded. She asked after Rebecca, she said. Isabel looked pensive. I'm not surprised, she said. Isabel made to stand up when a nurse entered the room and headed straight for the table with the three of them around it. She's just woken up. She is making sense, but we are checking her over, so you won't be able to come and see her until we're finished. Isabel sat back down. Would you like a drink, Molly? Asked Sir Teddy. Hot chocolate, blurted out Molly. Of course, said Sir Teddy with a smile. It was something she'd not been able to afford in her era, and when Mariner made one a few days ago, she'd become instantly addicted. Sir Teddy handed Molly a £5 note, and she went up to the counter. I need to talk to her first, said Isabel. She will want to know about Rebecca. Sir Teddy nodded. I don't envy you that conversation. We shall be there for her afterwards. Isabel nodded. Good. She'll need you. Saward had a headache, so when the doctors finished examining her, she asked for the curtains to be drawn. She was lying in the semi-darkness when Isabel entered the room. Hello, Saward, she said quietly, putting her bag down on the chair next to the bed. How are you? I've been better, said Saward. Have you been able to help Rebecca? Isabel shook her head. No. When you were found, it was a passer-by who called an ambulance. It took us a while to establish where it was you were discovered, and then to work exactly what had happened. I'm not sure exactly what did happen, said Saward with a sigh. You found the mural on the wall. You realised that Sosie had trapped Rebecca in it. You tried to free her, which is when you discovered that it set a trap for you. Instead of releasing the person trapped inside, the process you used before caused the picture to try and drag you in as well. If you had not rendered yourself unconscious, have you tried to free Rebecca? Asked Saward. Isabel nodded. We have not been successful. When we saw your injuries, we guessed that you deliberately tried to knock yourself out. Why didn't you ask for help, Saward? Why did you try to go it alone? I thought I could free her, said Saward with her eyes closed. And perhaps if you had not put that sting in the tail, you could have done. But you should not even have tried. Did you look at the picture at all? It was a picture of both you and her. Was that not a clue? I didn't think, admitted Saward. I just reacted. Isabel nodded and toned down a scolding tone. I do understand, Saward. Most of in that situation would have done the same, but he knows that we're onto him now, and that changes all of the rules. We have to be so careful, especially you. We need the advantage your abilities will give us to get rid of him. We've had to pause the operation because without you it would have failed. Saward nodded. How long have I been here? It's Friday. We found you on Monday. I've been here 4 days. Isabel nodded. The damage you'd done to yourself was so severe they thought you were going to have a stroke. On Thursday, one of us visited you and helped repair the damage. The doctors just assumed that their original diagnosis was wrong. One of your institute. Yes, said Isabel with a smile. We have our uses. So what about Rebecca? She's as safe as she can be. I've allocated a small team to work out how to free her. There will be a way to work around whatever Sosie's done to that picture, but it may take some time. I need to know she's safe, said Saward. Isabel nodded. I know. And as soon as we worked out what had happened, I put someone on it. I knew it'd be the first thing you would ask about. And you knew I wouldn't help you if anything happened to her? I still think you will. I still think you would have, said Isabel. So no, we aren't doing it purely to keep you happy. We guess that Sosie will use this technique from now on, and we need to know how to reverse it in case he uses it between now and when we kill him. Isabel shook her head sadly. We have a lot of preparation to do. Sir Teddy has offered us the use of his estate to do a trial run of our operation against Sosie. I think that's a good idea, so I'll be there for the next couple of nights putting everything into place. The nurse thinks they will release you tomorrow. There was a pause. Thank you, Isabel. Isabel smiled. I know we got off on the wrong foot, Saward. I am truly sorry about what happened with Cavi. You are a remarkably strong woman, both mentally and in terms of your abilities. I am very impressed by your levels of control and your reticence to use what you've been given. I don't want it, said Saward flatly. I know, said Isabel with a sigh, and as much as the wasted potential grieves me, I respect that. Once Max Sosie is out of the way, I will teach you anything I can to help you live a normal life. That is a promise. She reached out and squeezed Saward's hand. Concentrate on getting well. We need you at your strongest. She leaned over and kissed her gently on the forehead before picking up her bag and leaving the room. Moments later, Sir Teddy and Molly entered. How are you, my dear? Asked Sir Teddy. I think I'm getting there, said Saward. Has Isabel told you about Rebecca? Yes, said Sir Teddy, pushing his hair forward so he could take her hand. He squeezed it gently. They're doing all they can. If there is a way of helping her, Isabel will find it. Saward nodded and then looked across to Molly. So I've been here for 4 days. Have you coped without me? I struggled to sleep, admitted Molly, but it's been getting easier. I was so used to having you there that it was strange when you weren't. And you're wearing your jeans, said Saward with a smile. I thought you said you didn't feel comfortable wearing them where people could see. Molly nodded. Yeah, I was being silly, wasn't I? You've got to move with the times. Saward chuckled, which turned into a painful cough. You're amazing, Mole. You've been here 2 weeks and already started to fit in. Molly looked at her strangely, and Saward could sense that something had upset her. I'm sorry, did I say something wrong? Nah, said Molly bravely, but Sir Teddy could see that she was fighting back tears and took her hand in his. My brother Alfie used to call her Moll, and as far as I know, he was the only person that did that, stated Sir Teddy. Sorry, said Sayward. That's okay, said Molly. He was such a sweet boy, Sayward. I miss him. Sir Teddy let go of Molly's hands. Let us not dwell in the past. He returned his attention to Sayward. The provisional plan is for us to bring you home tomorrow, Sayward. You can recuperate properly. I understand that things need to happen regarding Mr. Sosey, but I will not allow you to assist the Institute until you are fully ready. We will see you tomorrow. He leaned over and patted her hand again. Molly bent over and gave her a hug and a kiss, and they left the room together. Sayward sat in her bed, and when thinking about Rebecca wore her out, she fell into a light sleep. The following day, the nurses confirmed that Sayward would be allowed to go home later that afternoon. She was given a list of medications and a schedule when she had to take them, and at just gone midday, Molly and Isabel arrived to walk her down to the car. Angela greeted her warmly and explained that Sir Teddy had charitable foundation work to do today, that he could not get out of, but he would see her back at the estate that evening. Where are we? Asked Sayward as the car pulled away. On the outskirts of the city, replied Angela cheerfully. Why, is there a detour that you would like me to make? Tell me I'm being foolish, but I'd like to see the picture of Rebecca, said Sayward. Isabel gave a cold smile. You are being foolish, but I don't suppose it will hurt. She leaned forward and gave Angela direct instructions on how to find the alleyway. About 10 minutes later, the car pulled up and parked opposite the entrance. Is your mind closed off? Asked Isabel. Sayward shook her head. No. I think it might be a good idea if it were. I'm happy for you to look at the picture, but I don't think hearing the scream is going to do anything for your state of mind right now. Sayward nodded. You're right. She closed her eyes and imagined the green field and the blue sky. It had been a few days since she built her wall and did not come to her as quickly as she'd hoped. On her first try, it was only half built before it collapsed around her. Sayward snorted in frustration. Don't rush it, said Isabel calmly. Don't rush it, said Isabel calmly. Molly on the other side took her hand and gave it a supportive squeeze. Sayward smiled at her, then closed her eyes again. This time she went back to basics. She had become used to building the wall whole rows at a time, but today she went back to doing it brick by brick. As she got more confident, she was able to speed up, and within a few minutes the wall was in place. She opened her eyes to see Isabel nod and smile. Well done, she said. Come on then. The three of them climbed out of the car and crossed the road. It was at the opposite end to the one she had approached from last time, the end close to the flat Sayward had shared with Rebecca. She looked at the general direction of their old home and longed for the times when they used to curl up on the sofa in front of a horror film. Little had they known that they would soon be living in one. The small group walked into the alleyway, and the first thing that Sayward noticed that there were a couple of men standing close to the mural. She was not sure what they were doing, but she was having none of it. Hey! She shouted down the alley. What are you up to? Her vision was not quite normal yet. What she could see was a little blurry. She could not make out the detail of what they were doing. Oh, shit, muttered Isabel under her breath, staring down the alleyway. Molly, take her back to the car. Molly looked confused. Now! Snapped Isabel. What's happening? Cried Sayward. Please go back to the car, pleaded Isabel, taking her arm. Sayward shook it off and started running down the alleyway. Her balance was not all that good, and she almost tripped a couple of times. Shaking her head, Isabel dashed after her. Sayward arrived where the two men were standing with buckets and brushes. The wall was bare. Where's the picture? She shrieked. Both men were Asian and wearing factory overalls. It was graffiti, said one. Quite good graffiti, to be fair, said the other, but the boss wanted it gone, said it would just encourage more. They walked away talking to each other, completely unaware that Sayward's world had just imploded. She fell to her knees. Bex! She shouted. Isabel caught up with her and gently took her arm. Come on, we need to get back to the car. Where's Bex? Screamed Sayward again. She dropped the protection around her mind and searched for the sensations that had been coming from the wall the last time she'd been here. There was nothing. Isabel ran her hands across her face uncomfortably. She's gone, Sayward. I'm so sorry. She was trapped in the artwork and it's not here anymore. She must be in there somewhere, cried Sayward, breaking down into floods of tears and pushing her hands onto the wall. Bex, I'm sorry, where are you? Isabel forced some tears back and rested her hand gently on Sayward's shoulder. Molly knelt on the other side, not knowing exactly what had happened, but understanding that Rebecca was not coming back. Not ever coming back. She hugged her. We need to get back to the car, sweet, she said softly. There's nothing we can do here. Where is she? Isabel hugged her from the other side. If the artwork is destroyed, the soul trapped in it no longer exists either. There's nothing we can do for Rebecca. I'm so sorry, she's gone. I know, it's upsetting me. As Sayward let out a piercing screech, Isabel and Molly helped her stand and almost dragged her back up the alley towards the car. Sayward had no idea what was going on around her, and the other two were struggling to keep it together long enough to get her back to the parked vehicle. Angela could see something was very wrong when all three crossed the road in tears. She opened the doors and helped Sayward into a seat where she just sat. Molly sat on the back seat next to Saywood and looked questioningly at Isabel, who was hovering outside. There were meant to be two people watching at all times to make sure nothing like this could happen, said Isabel. I need to find out what happened to them. I'll make my own way back to the estate. I'll make my own way to the estate later. She slammed the door and walked back into the alley, her mobile phone pressed to her ear. Angela looked questioningly at Molly. Home? Molly nodded, and Saywood put Saywood's seatbelt around her. The car indicated right and soon pulled out into the traffic. Everyone sat in silence until Saywood spoke. I have to kill him, she said softly, once and for all. They keep on insisting. If they insist on keeping him alive, they can go to hell. I'll have no part of it. Max Sosi must die. Yeah, I felt bad writing that. See, what made the story more complicated when I was writing it was at the beginning, their relationship was supposed to be nearly over. And then, because of what was going on in the story, and it wasn't supposed to get better, they were supposed to split up before Rebecca died. That was a key part of the story. And they started getting back together. And it's like, no, because it, yeah. So I then had to come up with a different reason for them splitting up, which I'm very pleased with. I think it's hopefully one of the most unexpected bits in the story. But yeah, that upset me when I wrote it. It's upset me now. More upset me because I've got a lot of empathy for Saywood as a character, and it explains, because basically I'm planning to write this. I'm about 8 chapters from the end now, and this is a self-contained story, but I am planning to write a pair of sequels. I think the sequel's basically going to be one long story spread across 2 books. They're going to be called Self-Portrait and Blank Canvas, and I've established in the story that the Institute stop basically anybody they believe could be too powerful and could do bad things with their abilities. They wipe the ability from them. And they should have done, this is what I don't think is revealed until the final chapter, they should have done it with Saywood. Saywood is not unstable, but she has a lot of anger with her and in her. And the Institute made the decision that they needed her to defeat Sosi. And they are going to live with the consequences of that decision for a very long time, because I don't think it's too much to reveal that in the next book, Saywood goes too far. And effectively, not deliberately, not with bad intent, but she becomes the bad guy. And I'm so looking forward to writing that. Yeah, but not in this book. She's a goodie in this one. For the Institute. Well, it's slightly better planned than that. So there is a character that have you been on for the whole session? Did you see the first chapter I did today, where they're giving a speech and explaining to the Institute members that they need to deal with that? And there's a masked lady called Lady Khalida Desai. She wasn't in the first draft of this book, but when I started plotting the second one, yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah, the Institute have got a problem in the next book, a big one. But it's bigger than you realise, because, yeah, they have a student of Max Sosi in their midst and they don't know it. Yeah. So, yeah, I've got a lot planned for the later ones. Yes. Yeah, they don't know. I think I need to read this and oh, bless you. I'm very proud of it. I have to say, I love the characters. Saywood is, well, I don't know. Of all the 3 books I've written, my character in this, Saywood, and Ronnie from Empress of the Trees are 2 of my favourite characters, and they're both really strong female characters, and I wouldn't like to think who would win in a fight. Yeah, I've got loads of ideas. I've basically plotted out the 2nd and 3rd books, and oh, hello, Dicus Magnificus, which I believe is a Monty Python reference and not a boast. Right, let me export this out. And oh no, I've done that. Let me drag this into Grammarly and get this done. And this was basically everything I've pre-read. So, but I might just do some of the later chapters now, just to edit them. We'll see. Let me just get this one Grammarlied. They're bringing coffees. Now, again, you would say coffee, but she's new to Century and wouldn't necessarily know that. So I'm going to leave that as it is. Oh, good. See, this one started. See my score on this one? See my starting score on this one, Shy Revenge? Oh, I'm proud of that. Yeah, happy with that. So if I can get it up to 90, when there's not going to be that many changes need to be made. And again, this is... It's just assuming that I've made a mistake then, but I haven't. Had, yeah, that's correct. Move the comma. Mine's over, and yeah, I'll accept that. Just gone midday. I should say just after midday is probably a grammatically better way of saying that. Remove the comma. Trim.com. It was the opposite end to the one they had approached. It was the opposite end to the one they had approached from last time. I'm going with that. Yeah, I'm going to accept that. Should be in here. No, that's correct. No, it's staying at 89, I think. I'm not going to make... Still 89. Nah. I'll make my way to today. Yeah, I'll accept that. We'll lose that one word. Will that be enough? 90. Yay, there we go. That's a good one. Happy with that. Right. And that's out, and that's without all their paid expensive extra little hints and tips. Right. Holy diggity, I'm happy with that. I'm not going to say no to that. I'm not going to be disappointed with that. Right, let's just open that. Copy it. Why isn't it doing that? It's because I'm pressing the wrong button. That's why. Paste it back into there. There we go. That's chapter 25. So I'm scared to see horrible. Yeah, but you know what? It's nice to get a nice score, but it marks you down on things that are not correct. You know, it doesn't take into consideration when you've got somebody, if somebody speaks in a certain way, it doesn't take that into consideration. It doesn't, you know, it doesn't take into consideration your writing style. So I like to get a high score, but I wouldn't change a huge amount just to achieve it. Right then. No, I'm going to the wrong folder. Although, having said that, I would have done anything to get that one up to 90. I would have tweaked anything just to get that extra point. So I'm a liar, basically. Right. So those are... What time is it? How long have I been on? I might do a little bit more now. So this next chapter isn't one I can sign off immediately. Well, actually, no, let's do it. Let's do chapter 26. Now, this one I haven't read through. So the way I do this is I will read it off the screen, and then if I'm happy with it, I will print it out and do what I've just been doing. So let's do this. So chapter 26, Love and Hate. Seywood ran straight to her room in the east wing and flung herself onto the bed. Molly tried to follow, but Seywood told her in no uncertain terms that she needed some time on her own. Isabel joined Sir Teddy and Molly about half an hour later in the first floor drawing room and had the unfortunate task of updating Sir Teddy on exactly what had happened. No, exactly. His eyes closed as she told him of Rebecca's terrible fate, and he and Molly held hands for several minutes afterwards. "There's nothing you can do?" asked Sir Teddy. Isabel shook her head. "She's gone. The two people we left watching the mural have vanished. We've been unable to get hold of them. It's rather troubling." "Would—" Molly started to ask a question, then stopped in embarrassment. "What would you like to ask?" asked Isabel gently. "I don't want to ask a stupid question," said Molly. Isabel looked at her. "There are no stupid questions here, Molly," she replied gently. "Would she have suffered?" Molly asked eventually. "When the picture was washed away? No, she would have no idea that anything was happening. But you know what probably happened to her before she entered the picture, Molly." Molly's eyes clouded over. "Do you think?" Isabel gave a small, sad smile. "He's a sadist. He did this purely to hurt Seywood." Sir Teddy shook his head. "I assume you cannot proceed without her." Isabel shook her head. "She's one of two people that has the strength to take him on. With both, we may succeed. Without her, we don't stand a chance." "What are you going to do?" asked Sir Teddy. "Tomorrow I must return to Scotland and put everything in place. We know which of his properties he is in. Thank you for turning over all of Nathan Walsh's information. It sped things up." "Nathan was very thorough," said Sir Teddy. "He seems to have vanished off the face of the earth since his attempt to free Seywood, though." Isabel went slightly red. "We contacted him. Rebecca had his number." Molly winced at the mention of her name. "He is helping us with the operation up there. He has some very useful contacts." Sir Teddy nodded. "I am pleased. I need your opinion on something," said Isabel, looking across at Sir Teddy. "Is Seywood strong enough to deal with what happened today?" Sir Teddy shook his head. "I honestly don't know." "She is," Molly piped up. "Once she gets past it, this will make her more eager to get her own back." Isabel shook her head. "I cannot have her bent on revenge. I need to know that she is going to be predictable, that she will do the things we ask her to. This must not be a crusade for vengeance." Sir Teddy shrugged. "I suppose only time will tell." Isabel stood. "Time we don't have. Excuse me, I need to make some calls. I have some calls to make. Then I'll need a private word with you, Sir Teddy." She looked pointed at Molly, who happened to be staring out of a window at the time and missed it completely. Isabel left the room, and Sir Teddy wheeled his chair over to the window to join Molly. "I don't know how to help Seywood," said Molly helplessly. "She doesn't want me near her." "Give her time," said Teddy. "You know, one of the many things that impresses me about you is your capacity for acceptance. The time you come from would have condemned Seywood for a relationship with Rebecca, yet you accept it." Molly turned to him. "I've always thought people don't matter if it don't harm anyone else." "Absolutely," said Teddy, "but that is a very 21st century point of view." Molly sat down on one of the chairs. One of the women my mum used to work with, Nellie, was in love with another woman. My mum used to call her Filthy Nellie, and told me if she even tried to talk to me, I should run away. Sir Teddy smiled. "Nellie Trott. You remember her?" "I do. Last year, we know what I mean. I walked past a woman crying by herself near the beach. Asked her if she was okay before I realised it was Nellie. It seemed rude to walk away once I realised, so I listened to her talk. She was bullied and treated badly just because there were rumours about her. She said they weren't true, but nobody believed it. She'd be spat at in the street sometimes and shouted at and called names. Someone even threw rotten fruit at her once. She talked and I listened." Molly looked over at Sir Teddy. "She was so sad, Eddie. I was worried that she was going to hurt herself, so I offered to walk her home. She said she would come with me to the end of the beach road, but after that she would walk apart because she didn't want me tainted by her. So we got to the end of the road, and she thanked me and gave me some money to buy a cake. I got home, and instead of spending the money, I gave it to my mum to help with the housekeeping. She was suspicious and asked how I'd come by it, and I told her I'd talked to a lady crying on the beach. Somehow she knew it was Nellie Trott, and she screamed at me, made me promise never to talk to Filthy Nellie again, or people would assume I was like her." "Did you talk to her again?" "Yeah," said Molly with a smile. "She helped me get the job at the Grand. She was a cleaner there. I once asked Mr. Downs why he employed her, what with all the rumours. He told me that she was the hardest worker, and he didn't see what business it was of his, what she did behind closed doors, as long as she worked hard." Sir Teddy nodded. Mr. Downs, married to Mrs. Downs, was having a secret relationship with one of the hotel's younger waiters. That might be why he was so liberal with his views. Perhaps the fact that Mrs. Trott was such an employee was also part of the reason. Molly looked nonplussed. "Oh," was all she could say. "I used to be on the same team as Nellie in the Grand. We used to work together quite a lot, and I got to know her. She lost her husband years ago before she moved to Folkestone. She used to tell everyone that he had died, but he'd run off with another woman. She got quite comfortable with me, and even admitted she didn't like men anymore, and just wanted to be alone. She was nice, just unhappy. I wonder what happened to her." Sir Teddy shook his head. "Nothing good, unfortunately." Molly looked up. Oh no. A few weeks after you disappeared, one of the other girls at the Grand told the police that she thought Nellie might have had something to do with what happened to you. Of course, that young lady was completely wrong, but everyone talked about it and refused to work with her at the hotel, and in the end they let her go. Sir Teddy paused and thought for a moment. Nellie had to move away from Folkestone soon after. Nobody would employ her. Molly shook her head. People are so cruel. I never felt threatened by her. Just as I don't feel threatened by Saywood. It's because you can always see the best in people, said Stella. You are naturally kind-hearted and generous. It was why I adored you so much when I was young, and why I wanted to find you when I realised there was a chance that you, like me, may have survived what Sosie did to you. But don't you think you're kind-hearted too? Molly asked curiously. Isn't that why you wanted to help me? It's not the only reason, I'm afraid. Part of my wanting to find Sosie was so I could help you. The other part was driven purely by the hope for an opportunity for some kind of revenge for what he did to me. You hate him? Sir Teddy nodded. I do. Not as passionately as I once did. I calmed down as I got older. But I still cannot forgive all the terrible things he did to me, and you, and Saywood, and now Rebecca. So I think it is true to say that I'm driven by hate as much as love, which is not a good thing, Molly. I'm not proud of my inner thoughts, especially concerning Max Sosie. I think Saywood is driven by hate, said Molly sadly. In the car on the way back, she said you wanted to kill him. Sir Teddy nodded. I'm not sure that's what the Institute plans to do, he said, but they will use her hate for their own ends. Poor Saywood will never have the opportunity to calm down and rationalise her grief as I did. If they fail, she will probably meet a similar fate to what he intended for you. If they fail, she will probably meet a similar fate to what they intended for you, to what he intended for you. And I'm concerned that whatever the intentions of the Institute, Saywood may... What? Sir Teddy nodded. I'm not sure that's what the Institute plans to do, he said, but they will use her hate for their own ends. Poor Saywood will never have the opportunity to calm down and rationalise her grief as I did. If they fail, she will probably meet a similar fate to what he intended for you. And Right, that is all BS. I'm just going to lose that. Well, it's not BS, but it's just overthinking and over talking. Sir Teddy nodded. I'm not sure that's what the Institute plans to do, he said. But they will use her hate for their own ends. Poor Saywood will never have the opportunity to calm down and rationalise her grief as I did. Molly shook her head, more tears forming. We have to stop them using her then. Sir Teddy took her hand gently and shook his head. We must not. Isabel believes that they will only succeed with her help, and in the grand scheme of things, removing Sosie also means preventing a lot of harm that he could do to others in the future. But what about Saywood? She's no killer. What will it do to her? Sir Teddy shook his head. It will damage her, but we will be there for her, Molly. We can mitigate that harm. Molly was openly crying now. It don't feel right. No, but it is a necessary evil. Isabel had stepped back into the room, a mobile phone in her hand. What is a necessary evil? Sir Teddy stared back at her. Killing Sosie. Isabel looked uncomfortable but nodded. May I have that private word with you now, Sir Teddy? This is not a good moment. Sorry, I have a pressing engagement, sir. I need to get back up to Scotland and coordinate things. Molly sniffed. Let's just make that into contraction. I'll try and go and talk to Saywood again, she said, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand as she left the room. Isabel sat down. What I'm about to tell you cannot leave this room, she said. Can Saywood know? No. I cannot prevent her from seeing what is in my mind, he replied. No, you can't, said Isabel. But I can. She took his hands, and for a few moments Teddy experienced what felt like fingers in the back of his mind. He winced. It was not an entirely comfortable sensation. Isabel glared at him, her face neutral. You're ready now, she said with a whisper. Ooh. Molly climbed the stairs of the east wing and knocked on the door of the room she had been sharing with Saywood. She knocked timidly and waited for a response. Who is it? Came Saywood's voice through the door. Molly. There was a pause. What do you want? I've come to check on you. Can I come in? There was a pause. If you want to. Molly opened the door and walked in. Saywood was lying on a single bed with her eyes closed. The curtains were drawn so it was dark in the room. Molly left the door open so the light in the corridor spilled into the room. Spilled into the bedroom. I'll just say spilled in. Saywood turned that she was facing away from her. Molly walked up to the bed and sat down at the end. I don't know what to say to you, Saywood. I only knew for Rebecca for a couple of days, but she was so nice to me. I don't want to talk about it, said Saywood. I know, said Molly, but I just want you to know you're not alone in this. She rested a hand on Saywood's shoulder and could feel her flinch at the physical contact. If you touch me, I can see into your head, said Saywood. Not on purpose, but I'm too distracted to prevent it right now. There's nothing in my head I don't want you to see, said Molly. She sat down next to Saywood and tried to take a hand, but Saywood snatched it away. Molly put her hand back in her lap and continued. I don't know how to help you, but it's what I want most in the world. She was expecting Saywood to tell her to get off the bed and go, and was surprised when a hand sought hers, grasping it. There was a moment of silence between them, and then Saywood broke down and started sobbing. Molly squeezed her hand, said nothing for a few moments. She didn't deserve to die like that, cried Saywood. Of course she didn't. We'd only just found each other again, Molly. Molly said nothing, just kept holding her hand. And all I can think of is that I unwittingly forced her into that relationship, that every time we were intimate, I was making her do it against her will. There's a word for that. No, Molly whispered. None of it was her choice. What does that make me? Sobbed Saywood. Molly's mind flashed back to her time imprisoned by Sosie, and she could feel Saywood tense up. She tried to think of something else, but her mind kept returning to the occasions when Sosie had done the same to her. She started to cry softly. Saywood turned and glanced up into Molly's reddening face. She brushed some tears from her cheek. Sorry, Molly, I didn't mean to make you relive that. Molly wept, her eyes closed. Saywood sat up and hugged her tightly. I'm so sorry. Molly eventually came to her senses and opened her eyes. It wasn't the same though, was it? She sniffed. Your intention was never to hurt. You believed she wanted to be there. She believed she wanted to be there. And that's the difference. Sosie wanted to hurt me. That's how he got his pleasure. Don't you dare compare yourself and what you did to what he did. You're nothing like him. Saywood squeezed Molly, and images of the revenge she wanted to inflict on him entered her head. Molly flinched. I can see what you're thinking. What you want to do to him. Saywood shook her head. That's where we're different, she said. You just want to walk away. I want to stop him. She paused. I'm not judging you, Molly. I've been told that I can stop him, so I must do it. I see that, said Molly. But remember, you're not doing this on your own. I'm worried that you're going to go off and try and deal with him by yourself. And if you do that, I'll lose one of the only friends I've got now. She wept again softly. Don't do anything crazy, Say. I couldn't stand it. Bex used to call me Say, said Saywood softly. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. You're right. I'm so full of hate at the moment I could do anything. Promise me you won't. I can't. Molly pulled herself up from the embrace and stood up. You have to promise me, Saywood. I've literally lost everyone I've ever met apart from Edward, and he's an old man now. I understand that you feel the need to get your own back. I do, but I need you. Saywood sat up, trying to push Molly's thoughts from her head, but failing. You're scared of losing me. You'll think I get killed. You'd rather walk away now and not get too close if I'm just going to die like everyone else. I don't like it when you do that, but yeah, I know you need to do this, but for God's sake, do it with Isabel. Saywood glared at her with a steely expression. They want to keep him alive for research. That's so dangerous. I won't be told what to do, Molly, not by them. Her face hardened, and not by you. Molly closed her eyes. I ain't telling you. I'm asking you. It's the same thing. Do you know what Isabel did the day I met her, Molly? She let an innocent girl suffering from depression die. She could have stopped her. Why should I ally myself with that? For me, so I don't lose you. That isn't enough. Molly glared at her through bloodshot eyes. I'm sorry then. I get my stuff and move into the main part of the house. Saywood said nothing. Molly ran down the stairs through the east wing kitchen and the connecting door into the main part of the house. She was sobbing and Marion called after her. Molly, love, are you okay? Molly ran into the hall past Mr. Harris and up the stairs to the drawing room on the first floor. She flung herself onto a chair and cried. A few moments later, Sir Teddy entered the room. What's wrong, Molly? Molly shook her head. She can do something crazy. She don't trust the Institute. She's not going to work with them. She's going to try and deal with Sosie on her own. That's a problem, said Isabel. Molly gasped. She'd not seen her walk in. Oh, don't tell her I said anything, said Molly. I'm just worried if she goes off on her own, she'll get herself killed. Isabel shook her head. If she does go off on her own, she will get herself killed. This was interrupted. They were interrupted. They interrupted this moment by Mr. Harris, who entered the room with a tea tray, which he set down on the table, then retreated again. Isabel poured a cup of tea, added plenty of sugar, and took it over to Molly. I know you think we want to use her. If I'm honest, it's partly true. We don't have a hope in hell if she isn't with us. Just as she doesn't if we aren't with her. The only way we can deal with Max Sosie is together. Molly took a sip of the tea. It's too sweet, she said. Just drink it, said Isabel. It will help. What did she say? Asked Teddy. She said she's going to deal with Sosie. When I tried to make her promise to do it safely, she indicated Isabel, she told me she won't be told what to do. Isabel rolled her eyes. She said that. That changes things. I need to make a phone call. Will you try and stop her? Asked Sir Teddy. The thing that scares me is that I don't know if we could stop her even if we wanted to, said Isabel. I think I've made a terrible mistake, she said to herself before looking back to Sir Teddy and Molly. I need to talk to Meredith Lawson. Try not to let her go anywhere. Let me go where? Snapped Saywood. There was a pause. I will talk to you all later. Firstly, I need to talk to Molly. Let me do that again. Let me go where? Snapped Saywood. There was a pause. I will talk to you all later. Firstly, I need to talk to Molly. Nobody moved. Alone! She shouted. I don't think that's a good idea, said Isabel. I'm not asking, said Saywood through gritted teeth, her bloodshot eyes wide. Sir Teddy took Isabel's hand. I think we should give them a moment. He let go and wheeled himself over to the door. Miss Myerscough, please. Reluctantly, Isabel joined him. They closed the door behind them. Saywood walked over to Molly. I want you to listen to me. Do you have something I want to hear? Saywood's voice softened. Yes. Yes, I think I do. Molly dried her eyes. What? Saywood looked down. I want to tell you that you're right. That I can't do this on my own. Isabel makes my blood run cold because of what she did to Cavi. She sniffed and closed her eyes to hide the tears. I'm sorry, Molly. She took a step closer. I can't afford to lose your friendship either. Outside, Isabel had been about to press the button to make a call when her expression changed. She looked relieved and lowered the hand containing her phone. What happened? Asked Sir Teddy. She's talked her around, said Isabel with a faint smile. Saywood's going to work with us. That's good, isn't it? Isabel smiled broadly. It means I might live to see next week. She looked down at Sir Teddy. She's all over the place, though. She's almost too unpredictable to be reliable. I can't afford for her to change her mind again. The door opened and Saywood stepped through. I'm sorry, Isabel, she said. You know that I'm struggling not to hold you responsible for what happened to Cavi. It has tainted my perception of the whole institute. Also, putting me on stage the other day, a little gathering did not help. I genuinely didn't know they were going to do that, stated Isabel. Saywood nodded, and Molly walked out the door and stood next to her. This isn't a promise I'm making you or the institute, Isabel. I'm making a promise to Molly. I promised her that I will work with you to do what has to be done I promised her that I will work with you to do what has to be done regarding dealing with Max Sosi. I will not go it alone. I will follow you until the situation is resolved, one way or the other. One way or the other? Inquired Sir Teddy. Saywood lowered a voice. Either we die or he does. Isabel shook her head. You know that's not part of the plan, Saywood. You need to promise Molly that you will do this our way. You don't trust me, snapped Saywood. I don't think you have the self-control to stop your heart from ruling your head. No. Saywood walked up to her, deliberately invading her personal space. You need me to do this, and I cannot do it on my own, however much my hatred for Sosi makes me want to try. I promise I will not let you down. Isabel looked uncomfortable. That's not what I asked. But is it enough? Isabel eyed her coldly, then made a decision. I suppose it'll have to be. I understand the anger in you, Saywood, the rage, but you need to put it in a box for now. Can you help me with that? Isabel smiled, and some of the tension melted from the room. I probably can, if you want me to. I do. Molly walked up to Saywood and embraced her. Isabel joined them and squeezed Molly's shoulder. Thank you, Molly. What happens now? I'll show Saywood some anger management techniques, said Isabel. Then I have to head for Scotland. The longer we think about doing this without going ahead, the greater the possibility that Sosa will find out and try to stop us, or move to another location. We've almost finalised the plans for the operation. We were just waiting on confirmation of what was happening with Saywood here. Now our involvement is confirmed. Someone will come and brief you tomorrow. We need to move quickly. He is no doubt expecting something, and once we set things in motion, they cannot be safely stopped. She paused. Are you sure you're ready, Saywood, to do this our way? Saywood nodded. For Rebecca, for Molly, for Sir Teddy. She lowered her gaze. For everyone that bastard has ever hurt. She paused and looked into Isabel's eyes. Yes, Isabel, I'm ready. Okay, happy with that? Oh, this chapter's quite fun. Oh, it's the dry run. Chapter 27, Ready or Not. They've started. Isabel sat on a chair in the first floor drawing room, her eyes closed. Molly was sitting next to her on a high-backed armchair. What makes you say that? Asked Molly. They've all gone silent, stated Saywood. I could see that there were people here, but they've shut their minds off to me. The large house was empty apart from the two of them. The staff had been given the day off on the grounds of the Ainsley estate given over to the Institute. They'd asked Saywood to take the part of the protagonist, and the rest were going to try and hunt her down. How will they find you? They can still read me. I'm not very good at closing my mind off. But won't Sosie have his mind closed off when anything happens? Molly shuddered as she thought about him. Saywood closed her eyes and considered. I guess so. At his house I don't remember reading him at all, apart from when he deliberately pushed images into my head. What have they asked you to do? Asked Molly, nodding her head towards the front of the house where the Institute members were gathering. To wait here, see what they throw at me, and then do everything in my power to stop them. Molly smiled and gave Saywood a cheeky look. And do you think he will wait in one place if he works out you're all there? Saywood looked thoughtfully at her, then nodded slowly. That's a very good point. What are you thinking? Well, if he realises you're coming, he's going to be one step ahead. What's the point of a practice run if you don't, do the same? Saywood's smile widened. You're saying that I shouldn't wait here? Molly grinned. What do you reckon? Saywood jumped out of a seat and grabbed Molly by the hands, pulling her up right out of the chair. You're right, she said with a shy smile. He's not going to play by any rules, so why should I? Isabel suggested that I improvise too, against Geraldine's instructions. I just don't like doing what Isabel tells me. But you don't mind it from me? Asked Molly. Hell no, replied Saywood with a wicked grin. I like you. Come on. They snuck out of the hall and through the door into the gallery. Saywood ran to the forward-facing window and looked out across the fields that made up the estate. There were plenty of outbuildings beyond the lawn, and the grounds were modestly contoured rather than flat. As for people, though, before them, because I have made a point of saying that behind the house it's sloped. Let's just do that. As for people, though, Saywood can see none. I need a moment to block my mind off, said Saywood. Keep an eye out. Let me know if you see anyone. Molly nodded and ran to the window. Saywood closed her eyes. The wall leapt up around the image of the grassy field. Now that she was practising regularly again, it was complete in seconds. Saywood considered stopping there with one layer, but she knew that to make it stable and secure, she ought to build a second. In the few days she'd been given to build her strength since being discharged from hospital, she'd managed to complete the second layer on several occasions. The large grey blocks went up quickly, and soon she had a dual layer of mental defences. She gave a satisfied smile. She'd never completed a second row of bricks that quickly. Should she try for a third? She remembered what Isabel had said. No two adjacent layers could be made out of the same material. She decided to use red bricks for the third layer, the same as the first. It was harder this time, trying to build the new wall whilst maintaining the first two, but she did not rush. She started building it brick by brick, and as that became easier, she moved to doing whole rows at a time. It came very close to crumbling about halfway through, so she stopped, mentally shored up the wall, and then continued slowly, one brick at a time. She was astonished because a matter of minutes later it was completed. She stood looking at a triple-layered mental barrier. It was the first one she had ever attempted or completed. Saywood opened her eyes. Molly was still looking out the window. I'm done, said Saywood. Molly ran over to her. What next? She asked breathlessly. Now I'm going to take this exceedingly seriously. I don't know how many of them there are, but I am going to prove a point, which is, don't underestimate Sosie. She paused before giving a mirthless grin, or me for that matter. Saywood held out her hand. Take this. Why? I want to test my defences. Physical contact makes mental contact stronger. I'm going to think about something. I want to check that you can't see it. Molly took Saywood's hand. Now what? Saywood closed her eyes. She thought of a picture of Rebecca in her favourite coat, laughing at something she had said. Feelings of loss rushed through her, and she pushed back tears. She was briefly caught in the moment, then remembered why she'd called up the image. She snapped her eyes open and looked at Molly. Anything? Now, that contradicts something I want to do later on, so I'm going to have to change that. Right, so that bit where she turns that image now becomes irrelevant. I want to test my defences. Physical contact makes mental contact. Anything about something I want you to check, you can't see it. Molly took Saywood's hand. What? Now what? Saywood closed her eyes. She thought of a picture of Rebecca in her favourite coat, laughing at something she had said. Feelings of loss rushed through and she pushed back tears. She was briefly caught at the moment, then remembered why she called up the image. She snapped her eyes open and looked at Molly. Anything? She asked. Molly shook her head. Sorry, I can see Bex. Saywood frowned. Oh well, maybe the barriers don't work with physical contact. I'll ask Geraldine later. Her sombre expression faded and she smiled. Assuming she was talking to me after today. Right. Let's do this. What's your plan? Asked Molly. Plan? Asked Saywood. I don't have a plan, love. I'm going to wing it. She looked around at the outbuildings that were some distance from the house, and her eyes were drawn to an old barn that was a couple of 100 metres to the right of the winding driveway. We will start outside in the barn. Molly and Saywood were kneeling on the floor. The outbuilding was old, and some of the planks that made up the walls had narrow gaps between them, which they peered through. Two people from the institute had gone past already in the direction of the house. It's not going to take long for them to work out you're not in there, said Molly. That's fine, said Saywood. As long as it takes them a while to work out where I am, I don't care. That just doesn't need to be there. That's fine, said Saywood. Molly frowned, posing a question with her expression. Saywood took... That's fine, said Saywood. Molly frowned, posing a question with her expression. Saywood took a breath and looked away from the hole in the wall. I'll do something with the next person that comes past. I can either control their actions or put an image in the head if there's more than one. There's someone out there now, hissed Molly. Saywood put her face to the wall again and stared through one of the gaps. So there is, 3 of them. How'd you put an image in people's minds? Saywood shook her head. It's hard to describe. I sort of see things as though I'm them. Isabel gave me some basic lessons, taught me some other skills. And she showed me how to box up my anger. How'd you do that if you've built your wall? My mental defence... This is problematic in a continuity sense as well. Ah, right. How can you do that if you've built your wall? My mental defences are one way at the moment, said Saywood. No one can see my thoughts or control my actions when it's 3 layers deep, but I can still send images or instructions, right? So if it gets thicker, she can't. Right, that makes sense. What if they've also built their walls? Saywood looked across at Molly. I will smash them down. I'm more powerful than most of them, Molly. I'm not skilled, but I'm strong. Now hush. I need to concentrate. She looked around for inspiration for an image to push into the minds of the people outside, but all she could see in the barn was hay and a grey tractor. She focused on the old machine, and the humour left her face. Yes, that would do. She started to concentrate. The 3 institute members that were standing outside the barn did not see or hear the tractor until it was practically upon them. They stood looking towards the house when suddenly the large grey machine was bearing down on them. One pulled the other out of the way, but the third did not get out of the way in time. It hit him, and he fell to one side, the front wheel of the tractor running over his left leg. He lay on the ground screaming as the larger rear wheel rolled over him. The others looked up with fear and bewilderment. There was no sign of the vehicle. The man on the ground was yelling in agony. Saywood peered through the wall, her eyes wide. She had intended for the tractor to drive past, but the man had been right in the way. She knew that he was in reality unharmed and felt a brief pang of guilt for the pain and fear that he was going through, then quickly brushed it aside. Sosu would think nothing of inflicting real damage to these people. This was nothing. This was nothing. What's happening? Asked Molly. Quiet, instructed Saywood. She narrowed her eyes at the 3 men, showing everyone the crushed, unnatural angle of the fallen man's leg. His blue jeans were starting to go red with blood. Jesus, one was saying. Where did that come from? I'll get help, said the other. He closed his eyes. Saywood knew that she did not want her location to be revealed, so she impulsively sent out the first image she could think of to distract them. A fantasy in which she was hurting Sosie. Both men clutched their heads, screaming at her to stop, and she fell to the ground. Saywood turned to Molly with a satisfied look, which left her face as soon as she saw her friend. Molly was yelping, and her hands were covering her mouth in an attempt to hold in vomit. She had failed, and it was trickling through her fingers. "Oh, my God!" Molly looked up at Saywood, an angry and accusative look in her eyes. Saywood's eyes widened, and she realised what she had done. The protective wall exploded inside her mind. "That wasn't for you," Saywood said frankly. "That wasn't for you," Saywood said frantically. "I'm so sorry, Molly. Is that what you want to do to him?" shouted Molly. Saywood held her gaze. "That's terrible. So is what he did to you, to Rebecca, to Sir Teddy." Saywood actually witnessed one of Sir Teddy's nightmares from the night before last, in which he relived the moment when Max Sosie had crippled him. As that unpleasant memory filled Saywood's head, she accidentally transmitted to everyone, including Molly, who put her hands to her head as she saw what Sosie had done to young Edward's legs. Molly shrieked. Helplessly, Saywood sent a command to sleep. The two outside that remained standing dropped immediately to the floor, and Molly, who was already on her knees, fell face forward into the straw. Saywood caught her and laid her down gently. "I'm sorry," she said softly, tears in her eyes. "I didn't mean to hurt you as well." She kissed Molly's forehead and touched her cheek gently. "It seems all I can do is hurt." She let go of her friend, looked down at her for a moment, then stood up, brushing the straw from her jeans. She walked outside and one by one dragged the 3 sleeping men into the barn. They were heavy and it was hard work, and by the time she was pulling the third man inside, her arms hooked between his arms and body, she was sweating. She laid him carelessly down next to the others, then rushed back outside. She kept low, using bushes and tall grass as cover, carefully looking around her as well as keeping her mind open in the hope of sensing someone. As soon as she saw anyone, she sent them the terrible images from her revenge fantasy, sometimes changing the face of the victim to those of the people she saw. Most of them had never seen any real violence, and the sickening scene stopped them in their tracks. Several bent down to the ground and threw up. At this point, Saywood commanded them to sleep. 4 more, 3 more. There was even a group of 7. Saywood hid from them, subjecting them to the most unpleasant visions that she could dream up. And then made them slumber. There was a cry from the house. "Saywood, what the hell are you doing? Stop this at once!" Someone had discovered some of her handiwork. Saywood shook her head. When they did this for real, there was no way that Saywood would be subdued by an impassioned plea to cease his activities, so neither should she. Saywood crept towards the house and reached a vantage point from which you could see Geraldine standing on the steps of the main entrance. Further 10 Institute members were gathered around her. "Saywood," shouted Geraldine again, "this exercise is over. Stop what you are doing immediately." Saywood stepped out in front of them. "Who says it's over?" "I do," cried Geraldine. "And will it stop when we're doing this for real?" shouted Saywood. "Will Sosie just cease when you tell him to? This is supposed to be an exercise to build our confidence." Saywood marched towards them. "No, it isn't. I was told to take this seriously, to resist you as though I was him. I am not stopping now. I am not stopping now." "Well, we are," shouted Geraldine, waving her hands at Saywood. "We are not," screamed Saywood at the top of her voice. "I'm not a fraction as powerful as him. If you can't stop me, you won't be able to stop him. And if that happens, we're all fucked." Geraldine shook her head nervously. "Don't take a step further," she commanded, her hands in front of her. Saywood could not feel emotions coming from Geraldine. Her defences saw to that, but she could see that Geraldine was red-faced, sweating and visibly shaking slightly. She was not just scared, Saywood realised. She was terrified of her. Saywood kept walking. The people around Geraldine looked to her for instruction. Saywood imagined a man with a machine gun running from the door behind them, pushing the image into all of them. The phantom stopped and pointed his weapon at them. The group tightened around Geraldine, fear in their eyes. "Stop!" shrieked Geraldine. "No, you have to stop me!" Saywood screamed at the top of her voice. The group of Institute members backed into each other. The gunman sneered, raised his weapon, and then fired it into them. They screamed as they felt the bullets and screamed en masse to the floor. The Vision walked up to them and dispassionately started executing them one by one with a shot to the head. When he came to Geraldine, he sneered and smashed her head with the butt of his gun. Already regretting the perceived violence she'd inflicted upon them, Saywood sent the group into a deep trance. They would wake naturally in several hours, or earlier if someone else woke them. The only person that remained conscious was Geraldine, who was whimpering and being sick on the floor. The Institute had thought this was going to be a simple exercise. They now had to stop her. If they could not, then their attempt to put an end to Sosie would undoubtedly fail. Saywood ran back to the barn. Molly was now awake in the corner, sobbing to herself. When she saw Saywood, she threw her arms across her head. "Keep away from me!" Saywood ran over to her and tried to hug her, but Molly shrank back. "No, that was terrible, Saywood. You were torturing him and enjoying it." Saywood stood and a cold expression crossed her face. He did the same to you. Molly screwed up her eyes, fresh tears streaming down her cheeks. You mustn't be like him, Saywood. If you are as cruel as him, then you'll be as bad as him. Saywood glowered at her. Someone's supposed to forget what he's done to hundreds of people. Her eyes were wet with tears and she could feel a scream building up in her. Molly was right. What the hell was she doing? Saywood let out a pained howl and the walls of the barn suddenly cracked as though something had exploded inside the room with them. Saywood stared uncomprehendingly at the shattered walls before realising that she had caused it. Stop! Cried Molly. Saywood fell to her knees with her eyes closed. Without thinking, she gripped her prolata and let out another scream. It was amplified 1,000 times by the stone in her hand. At their homes at the other end of the state, Harris, Angela, Marion and Sir Teddy, who were having lunch at Marion's house, screwed up their eyes and put their hands to their heads. In the barn, Molly screamed in terror, expecting what was left of the barn walls to explode around her. Saywood stood in the building in the middle of a psychic storm. All around the estate, members of the Institute fell to their knees. Jagvir felt his mental defences shatter, as did those of everyone around him. Not only were they now hearing Saywood scream, they were also experiencing her anger. A rush of pure rage swirled around them, and it was all many of them could do to push it away. Some did not manage. A group of 5 men failed to adequately close their minds in time, and as emotions flooded through them, they started attacking each other with fists, or anything they could get their hands on. All around the grounds of the Ainsley estate, hundreds of people were either writhing on the floor in pain or fighting, and in the midst of it, Saywood screamed and screamed. Geraldine opened her eyes and was immediately impacted upon by the waves of emotion smashing their way out of the barn. Violent images tore through her mind, images of Sosie undergoing every physical indignity that it was possible to imagine. She shrieked in pain, closed her eyes, and tried to ignore Saywood's onslaught. Somewhere in all the madness she found a moment of calm and mentally cocooned herself within it. It gave her the few seconds that she needed, and she used that time to rebuild the wall in her mind. 1 layer, then 2, then 3. It did not stop the psychic barrage that was pushing at her very consciousness, but it did help to mitigate it. Geraldine looked around her. There were members of the Institute littered everywhere, either unconscious or screaming in pain with their hands over their ears. They glanced around and could see a group of 10 people having a brawl with Jagvir in the middle, trying to stop it. He took a punch to the head, fell, and dragged himself away. There was nothing more he could do. The feelings of hatred gradually transformed into sensations of loss. The people who'd been fighting stopped and were overcome with emotion, many of them now starting to cry. Geraldine pushed away over to Jagvir, who was nursing a bruised jaw. Are you all right? She asked frantically. Jagvir winced, but he grabbed her hand as she helped him to his feet. I'm okay, he said, but that poor girl is having a breakdown. We have to help her. Geraldine glared at him. I've just checked with Meredith. There are almost 100 of us on this dry run. She's managed to incapacitate everyone. We don't need to help her. We need to stop her. We will just have to disagree for the moment, said Jagvir. He looked around. Everyone he could see was showing signs of grief. He could feel the losses in his life reaching out from the recesses of his memory, but he quickly densified the wall around his mind, adding several layers. He could see from the look of concentration on Geraldine's face that she was doing the same. Do you have a plan? He asked. We get as many people as we can, said Geraldine, one at a time, help them put up their barriers. Then we need to find Saywood and calm her down. How are we going to find her if we've all got our barriers up? She snapped. One thing at a time, said Geraldine. Someone will have to drop their defences, or if we can find someone with something like no. Or if we can find someone with Isabel's ability to locate, we will do that. I have something of Saywood's in my pack. They went over to the nearest pair of incapacitated Institute members and helped to calm them down, encouraging them to rebuild their walls. Once this was done, all people that now had control of their senses found more of them mobilised and did the same. Geraldine felt a wet drop of water on her face. Well, obviously it's wet, it's water, so I'll lose the word wet. Geraldine felt a drop of water on her face and looked up into the sky. It had been clear before, the sun had been out, but now several severe storm clouds were gathering overhead. The wind was starting to blow as well. She finished helping the person she was with, then hurried over to Jagvir. It's not just a psychic storm she's brewing, it's a real one as well, she said with all. She can't be this powerful. Perhaps she's not in control of what she's doing, stated Jagvir as he helped another man up. Perhaps she doesn't even understand. Geraldine shook her head. They know she's strong, but I'm not sure they knew she was this strong. Jagvir gave a resigned nod and continued to help the people around him. In the barn, Saywood was lying on the floor in the fetal position, screaming, her eyes closed tight. Molly was against the broken wall and could feel the emotion shooting out from Saywood. One side of her desperately wanted to run away, to get out of the door and leave, but she knew that she had to help her friend. She had no idea where the wind was coming from, but it was now in the barn itself, kicking up straw and dust. Molly focused on Saywood and saw that she was at the centre of a small but powerful cyclone. There was a sudden flash, and she realised that the barn had been struck by lightning right above where Saywood was lying. Moments later she could smell ozone in the air. Molly tried to stand up, but the wind was incredibly strong and she felt her balance go almost immediately. She returned to the ground and crawled towards Sayward on her hands and knees. The sound around her had changed. She was starting to hear a fierce wind coming from outside. For the last few minutes she'd heard the gentle noise of rain on the tiles above her, but this had become noticeably more fierce as well. It sounded like a torrential downpour hammering on the outside of the building, and moments later she could see water starting to pour through what was left of the roof. Molly looked back down on her hands and continued the slow crawl towards her screaming friend on the floor. The sensations of loss she was experiencing were horrible, and Molly had to fight her instinct to flee. She concentrated on putting one hand in front of another. She kept her eyes closed so that the muck and dirt that was flying around did not clog them up, opening them occasionally so that she knew she was still going in the right direction. A couple of minutes later, her hand struck. I need to stop saying her friend and say Sayward. Molly opened her eyes and could see that Sayward was lying on the floor and screeching. The brief moment where her hand made contact had been horrible. The feelings that were already making her feel physically sick were amplified to a point where they were almost unbearable. The thought of touching her again was terrifying, but Molly knew that there was no choice. She opened her eyes briefly to orient herself and gently shook Sayward's shoulder, almost gagging on the feelings that exploded into her mind as she did it. "Sayward!" she screamed. "Stop this!" She opened her eyes and could see that her words had not even registered. She tried shaking Sayward again, even slapping her, but it made no difference, and each time she made physical contact, the feelings almost overwhelmed her. The barn door was opened, and Geraldine, Jagvir, and at least 15 other people entered the space. They'd not needed any with locator skills. From outside you could see the epicentre of everything was the barn. They were all soaked, with water running down their faces and dripping from their hair. "Get away from her!" Geraldine yelled to Molly. "She's incredibly dangerous at the moment." "I'm trying to help her," Molly yelled back. "You don't know how," Geraldine shouted at her. "She'll end up hurting you." For a moment, Sayward's screaming stopped. There was a look of relief on the face of everyone in the room until her mouth opened again. This time the scream was even louder, and one by one the members of the Institute put their hands to their heads as the mental cacophony broke through their barriers. Jagvir shook his head. "What do we do now?" he shouted. "I'm going to have to go well beyond my brief." Geraldine yelled back at him, swinging her backpack onto the floor. She fell to her knees as the wind almost blew her over, and she opened the bag and pulled out a sheathed hunting knife. "What are you going to do?" asked Jagvir in shock. I'm going to try and use pain to snap her out of this," Geraldine screamed back, pulling the cover from the blade and dropping it to the floor. "Don't hurt her!" "I have to hurt her," shouted Geraldine. "Hopefully I won't have to kill her." Jagvir nodded uncertainly and jumped as another lightning bolt struck the roof of the barn, making everything glow for a brief second. He looked around. There were only 4 of them left on their feet now. The others all had their defensive broken and were lying on the floor. "Well, do it quickly," he gasped as he felt his defences crumble, and he fell to the floor as a further lightning bolt struck the barn. Geraldine watched in horror, wondering how much longer she could hold out, and started crawling towards Sayward. Molly had not had any luck in getting a response from Sayward, and as she examined her on the floor, she noticed that there was blood coming from her hand. She was gripping something so tight that her fingernails had dug into her palms. Instinctively, Molly knew that she had to get whatever it was from Sayward's grasp. She fell to the floor and grabbed her hand, trying to ride the extra emotions that this caused, like a surfer riding a wave. Because she anticipated the onslaught, she was partially successful and managed to bob along the surface of the raw emotions being thrown at her. She focused on Sayward's hand. There was a leather cord poking out from under her tightly clamped fingers, so Molly tried to pull on it, but to no avail. She concentrated on pulling Sayward's little finger, prizing at it with all her strength. Molly pulled, and eventually the finger opened, but as soon as she let go, it clamped back shut again. Molly looked at the floor and found a very old rusty wood-handled screwdriver. She grabbed it and thought about how she could use it. She might be able to pry the fingers open with the metal end, but she would probably end up hurting Sayward. So instead Molly pulled open the little finger again. Soon she'd done so, she forced the wooden end of the screwdriver into Sayward's hand, so that when the finger inevitably clamped shut again, it was around the handle. Smiling grimly, Molly worked on the ring finger, pulling it until it opened. She pushed the screwdriver handle in part of the way. She looked up and could see a woman crawling towards them. She had a large knife in her mouth and had a determined look in her eyes. Molly crawled round so that her own body was between Sayward and Geraldine, embracing Sayward from behind. There was a loud bang and bits of the roof fell in around them. Molly shrieked and looked above her. The smell of ozone was overpowering and there was now water pouring directly onto them. Molly returned her attention to Sayward's hand. She could see half of whatever it was that Sayward was grasping, but even with only 2 fingers holding in place, it was still stuck fast. Molly started pulling on Sayward's middle finger when she heard the voice shout at her. "Get off her! Let me deal with her!" Molly tensed, waiting for a psychic hack at the back of her body, but none came. "I won't let you kill her! I don't want to kill her!" shrieked Geraldine, now at the very limit of what her mental barriers could protect her from. "Just use pain to protect her, to distract her." Molly ignored the woman and started pulling again on Saywood's middle finger. It moved, but she was not quick enough to pull the object from her grasp. She could feel Geraldine behind her, trying to pull her away from Saywood. "My barriers are almost down," pleaded Geraldine, and Molly could hear the pain in her voice. "I have to stop her." Molly pulled at the finger again, using her other hand to pull at the object. Even with Saywood's thumb and forefinger holding it in place, it was hard work. But Molly pushed the handle of the screwdriver further into Saywood's grasp so that the fingers could not meet, and tugged at the object using the cord to attach to it. "It's too late," she heard Geraldine mutter before collapsing. With a shriek of terror, Molly pulled one last time at the cord, but the object, whatever it was, would not move. Molly shook her head, exhausted, and closed her eyes. The door of the barn swung open, and an enigmatic figure stepped in, a tall woman with a face obscured by a veil and mask. She stepped forwards and started walking over to where Geraldine, Molly and Saywood were lying on the floor. Although there was a tremendous wind blowing around her, the sheets of water falling from the beams that had once supported the roof, Lady Khalida Desai's clothing showed no sign of any of it. She was neat and dry, her clothes unmoving in the gale. She walked over to Saywood, leaned down and plucked the prelato out of her hand. The result was immediate. The wind inside the barn cut out, and the screaming in her mind, Saywood's scream, fell back to a manageable level, then stopped. Molly hugged Saywood tightly. She was not sure how long they were there, but eventually she heard the barn doors open. "Check on them," demanded an authoritative voice. "Yes, Miss Lawson," responded another. Molly heard 2 pairs of footsteps heading towards them. "Are you conscious?" asked a voice. "I am," said Molly softly, sitting up and brushing sawdust and straw from her clothes and hair. "But I'm not sure about Saywood and this lady." She knows who Geraldine is, so I'll say Geraldine. Meredith approached cautiously and knelt. Geraldine was coming round, and Saywood seemed to be sleeping soundly. "Are you hurt?" Meredith asked Geraldine. "I don't think so," said Geraldine groggily as she stood up, the knife in her hand. "Were you planning to use that?" snapped Lady Desai angrily. Geraldine was at a loss for words. Jagvir had woken up and was being helped to his feet. "She was only going to try and distract her." "By stabbing her," said Lady Desai angrily. "I wasn't going to kill her." "I'm sure you were in total control," said Lady Desai sarcastically. Saywood opened her eyes and went wide with fear as she sat up and saw the mess and the fallen people around her. "What the bloody hell happens now?" asked Molly, throwing her arms protectively around Saywood. Meredith Lawson frowned and put her head to one side. "That," she responded mirthlessly, "is a very good question indeed." And that's chapter 27. Which leaves me 6. So, not much I need to change in those. What I will do, let me just switch the view on the screen. Why does this program always close? Right, let's reopen. Connect, and back to that view. Yeah, so I think what I'm going to do, that'll do me for now. I've been on for 2 and a bit hours, so that'll be okay. So my plan is, later today, I will come back, and those 2 chapters I just read off the screen, I will come back and sign them off properly by printing them out and going through them again. But I don't think there's much that needs changing. Let me just call my notes up, but I'm pretty sure most of the notes... That's done. That's done. Yeah, all the major notes that I was given apply to earlier parts of the story. So actually, it's just a case of reading them through and making the odd change and signing them off. So, yeah, I seem to have a few people watching. So, hello. Oh, it says it's session 2. That's a mistake. It's not. It's session 1. There may be a session 2 later. So my plan for session 2 later will be to go back through those 2 chapters again using a printed version and sign them off. And then that leaves me 3 for tomorrow. Today's Friday, isn't it? Yeah, 3 for tomorrow and 3 for Sunday. And then that's the book signed off, hopefully. It is nearly there. I'm hardly having to make any changes now. So, yeah, thank you. So I'm feeling confident that I will, well, my deadline is the end of the month and it's the 21st. So I definitely will finish it by the end of the month, but it would be really nice to finish it by the end of Sunday because what I'll do then is print it in book form using Kindle Direct Publishing to read it through, just to make sure that, not with the intention of changing much, but just read it just to make sure there's nothing obvious that leaps out. And then when that's done, I have a couple of friends that want copies, so I shall do that. Send them physical copies because both of them are ones that prefer physical books. And then I'm done, I think. That's it. And then I need to think about what I want to do next. Obviously, I've got a short story to write by the end of the month. That shouldn't be a problem. And then I need to decide whether I go on to the second draft of Empress or whether I start looking at the first draft of the sequel to this. But I think Empress, I need to get that. The second draft will be the one which I will allow people to see, because I've got a handful of notes of things I feel I need to check for the second draft of Empress. So, yeah. Anyway, I would just like to thank, the people I've interacted with today, which is mainly Shy Revenge, finished Empress after the short story. Yeah, I think so. I think that's probably what I'll do. I don't know if it'll be finished, but I would like to do. The thing is, it's massive. So this book is about 120, 130,000 words long, as is my other book, The English Hikikomori, whereas Empress of the Trees is 270,000 words. It's massive, so it'll take me a couple of months to go through. However, if I continue doing it at the rate I'm doing this, it is. It was meant to be a bigger story. It wasn't meant to be that much bigger, and what I need to work out is whether I've just allowed myself to ramble on and whether it needs substantial cuts to it, or whether it justifies the story length. My gut reaction is that it is a much bigger story. It's about the end of the world basically, and it starts off with my main character as a kid. So the first 6 chapters of the 43 are just her growing up and going to university, and then it's from chapter 7 where the proper events of this story kick in. But it is a big thing. But again, I'm proud of it. I love my characters, and So yes, thank you. As I said, Shy Revenge, Ditka's Magnificence, Bow Street Society earlier, and anybody else who's interacted with me today. I'm going to go now. I may come back later. Thank you much for your encouragement, particularly Shy Revenge. Thank you for visiting me again. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I might see you all later. Take care. Bye-bye.